Committee of the Whole special meeting. It is Saturday, March 27th at 9:04. All counselors are present with the exception of Counselor Perry, who is out due to a death in the family. We are on to new business, which is item 3A, 2021-2051 FYE 2022 proposed budget deliberations. And I would just ask the Rules Committee to remind me to not adjourn when we finish today's items, in case I forget. All right, let's see.
Oh, if you did, we'd be done, wouldn't we?
Then we'd have problems and we'd have to go back again.
All in favor of forgetting to recess?
What? All in favor of forgetting to? Yeah, okay. No, Mr. Burt, no. Just no.
Mr. Burt.
All right, so we are going to begin with Legislative Policy 1001. And I think we will just, let's just have a reminder that we are under the Town Council rules for debate. We will break, I will try to break every couple hours. But again, if you need something prior to that, if you needed a quick break, somebody just ask and we could recess for a few minutes. And hopefully we'll be done before lunch. So fingers crossed, guys. All right. First account is Legislative Policy 1001. This is on page 57 in your budget book. Councillor Baumgartner, please. And we are going to be moving the total appropriations. So let me just double check and make sure that's correct.
Yes. 38,200.
Could someone help me with where the draft motion is?
We're on page 50. The appropriations amount is on page 58 in the budget book.
And essentially, we just say I move 38,200 for the 1001 budget. Is that what we would likely be done?
Yes, that's what we do.
All right, thank you. So I will move the amount of 38,200, the total appropriation for legislative policy.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Baumgartner and seconded by Parker for legislative policy 1001, $38,200. Mr. Burt, anything to present to us?
Yeah, this is, of course, the town council budget. It's down $1,000 from 39,200 to 38,200. And as you likely recall, the majority of this budget is for the CCM dues. That's 31,500 of it. Other things like postage, Martin Luther King Jr. scholarship dinner. The reason for the $1,000 decrease is reduction of fuel oil for Jabez Smith's house. Just because without the caretaker in there, we realized we could reduce that some.
Council questions?
The veterans and military, what does that do?
That's flags.
Thank you.
2,100 for flags that go out to cemeteries.
Thank you.
We have Councilors Heed and then Baumgartner.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Quick question. For the postage and printing, it went 731 up to 2350. Is this the account where we get our packets printed and mailed to us normally because they're coming electronically?
Yeah, and any other postings we have to, or any other mailings we might have to do. And of course, we extremely cut it for this year. This is back to the typical. We cut it this last year because of COVID. A lot of these funds we cut temporarily.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Councilor Baumgartner.
Now I'm in fiscal year 2020 under initiatives. The council appropriated $10,000. Can someone remind me what we had spent that money on? And
that was the water taxi. That was moved to the was it 1084 account to yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Because just to add a little bit, originally that was thought to be a 1 or 2 time thing, more of a temporary item. Once it became more of a long-term item, we moved it to the appropriate spot.
Right, seeing no other hands, we will vote on legislative policy 1001 in the amount of $38,200. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Thank you. Next item is legal services 1006. This is on page 67.
I make a motion to move $297,500 for account number 1006, legal services. I so move.
Second, Heed.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Heed. Mr. Burt?
Sure. This remains unchanged at $297,500. As a reminder, kind of where the money goes, $227,500 for most everything the town attorney does, union contracts, everything we do mostly. $10,000 for a special attorney for outside things, court cases we may have, which we generally have some things each year. And then $60,000 for general support, mostly for tax foreclosures, which are reimbursable eventually, if you can collect.
I'm looking for questions. The bond.
I'm sorry.
Counselor Parker, did you have something?
Yes, could you explain the 10,000 again?
Different when special court cases come up. What's an example when we were
If we were to ask for a legal opinion from another
like
firm.
outside legal opinions? If there's different reasons we've had to. We had an issue where we had a appeal recently on a car towing. We had to bring in an outside attorney for that. There's different things where it's a conflict of interest to have our attorneys do it, so we have to bring in other attorneys.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question too.
Counselor Heed?
Yes, is 297,500, does that like include everything, like when we ask for questions and things like that?
Everything, yep.
Right.
I would ask everybody to mute, please. We're hearing like lots of action going on in the background.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know they were going to be working on the house today, so I apologize.
I apologize. It's going to be easy to concentrate for you. Sorry. All right. So are there any other questions on legal services? All right. Seeing none, we will vote on $297,500 for account 1006. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Thank you. We are on to executive management, 1010 on page 70. And this would be Counselor Franco.
I move account 1010 in the amount of $318,000.
Second, Heed.
For account 1010, $318,000 was moved by Franco and seconded by Heed. Mr. Burt.
This account is up by $10,903, mostly due to 2 reasons. One is just general pay and social security changes, but 4,000 of it is we cut out most of the professional development because of COVID, knowing we weren't going to have a lot of opportunity this last year. So this puts it back to its normal level.
Are there questions on 1010? Any motions to zero? No? Okay. All right, seeing no discussion, we will vote on account 1010. All those in favor of $318,000. Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously, 800. Thank you. Okay, we are on to regional agencies. This is account number 1083.
Excuse me,
Yes.
how do you want us to vote if you've got us on mute?
No, you should unmute for votes. I just meant when discussion was going on. If you
Gotcha.
could just stay that way when other people are talking or when Counselor Heed has his work going on there. You'll be able to hear each other. So
No
this is page 174, account 1083. And with this particular account, we have 4 cost centers that, Ms. Landry, I believe we vote each of these individually, correct?
That's correct.
So the description for these is in the addendum, which is labeled A in your budget book. So if everybody can just get to 174 first, and then we'll go through each of these, and I'll give you the page number for the addendum as well. Okay, so we are starting, this is the one, Regional Agencies 1083 with COG, sector, seat, and the probate court. So the very first one we're going to do is Cost Center 0, Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments. And I believe this is Counselor Heed.
I'll make a motion for $136,499.
We have to
No.
move each one individually, please. Could you withdraw that?
I withdraw that motion.
So we need you to move COG first, please. You're muted.
Okay, yes, sorry. So I'll make a motion for $16,349.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Heed and seconded by Parker. Thank you. And this is on page A1 of your addendum if you'd like to look at the breakout for this. And I'm trying to see, do we have anybody from COG, Mr. Burt, or are you just going to do it?
Not this morning.
Okay. Would you like to just give a little brief overview for people and people listening at home, please?
Sure. The state's broken up in different regions for planning purposes, for more regional-based planning purposes. We're part of the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments. I believe there's 22 municipalities involved in that. Transportation funds flow through them. So anytime we want, that's probably the number one thing is getting transportation funds. When we seek any funding we want for regional that come out of the federal government, we have to go through them. They do services for other towns, provide some planning services, do other things. But the main thing besides transportation is getting everyone together to discuss regional issues.
Thank you, Mr. Burt. And our contribution is determined on the population. So this is
Yeah,
per
correct.
capita basis is how they determine what we pay.
And it has been held steady for a number of years.
Thank you. Does the council have questions on the COG funding?
Okay.
Councilor Aubrey.
Just one second.
You have the floor, Councilor Aubrey.
I'm trying.
Okay, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I didn't think you could. Does the city pay this also, or is this for the
Yes.
whole town?
I believe the city has their own fee they pay. And the mayor of the city has a seat on the COG.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a breakdown on A2 that shows the contributions of all the participant municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm not seeing any other discussion, so we will vote on 10830 Southeastern Connecticut COG in the amount of $16,349. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. All right, we are on to 10831. And this is sector. And I believe we have Councilor Aubrey for this line item.
I'll move 10831 sector in the amount of $14,041.
Second, Heed.
Moved by Aubrey, seconded by Heed. And this is on page A4 of your addendum if you needed to take a look at what sector does. And I didn't see Ms. Hauser on the attendees.
She actually passed on her apologies. She had a death in the family.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Are there questions? Mr. Burke could probably answer if you have questions on this. All right, very good.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I couldn't see your hand.
I know I didn't raise my hand. I couldn't get quickly enough.
That's okay.
In the letter, it says $14,040. Is there a reason why we did $1 extra? Just
Adam,
in case someone
No,
else
actually,
has a question.
I think we looked it up.
oh, ours is a typo.
I'm thinking it must be.
Cindy's thinking there must be a typo on ours.
14041. Do you round up, Director Landry?
We rounded up. We be sure.
Oh, was there some change? Oh, they rounded up
Yeah.
because there was some change.
It-
They do
it-
round
it's
it.
I know it's not, but it's not the 0.5. It's like 0.25.
Right.
Just a
Well, if you
question.
did, you have to go over the amount though. To cover it. Otherwise, they'd be short. Yeah,
I'm-
if you didn't
I'm
give them the 40,
sorry,
they'd be
what?
short. If you
Explain
didn't give them the.
Normal math is, it's
Mhm.
correct. Normal math is 0.5 and above, you round up. But if we rounded down, like you would normally do in math, they would be short the amount. So they rounded up to the full. I think that's what you're saying.
Full dollar, correct.
I thought it was a tip for Cindy.
Sorry, it's just a question because I
No, it's a
just
good
wanted to make
question.
sure.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Just
Good catch. I appreciate you looking closely at it. Okay, I'm just checking to see if I see any other hands, and I don't see anybody else. So then we will vote on 10831 sector in the amount of $14,041. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. We are on to seat 10832. This is A7 in your addendum. And I believe we are on to Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. I make a motion for account 10832 seat in the amount of $92,676. I so move.
second, Parker.
Moved by Bordelon and seconded by Parker. Is Mr. Carroll with us today?
He is not.
Okay, it's you again, sir.
Yeah, sure. Chris, this is the regional bus system, Southeast Area Transit District. About 90% of their funding comes from the municipalities. And there is a seat board that the town gets 2 spots on. However, we only have 1 spot filled, and I believe we're still looking for another spot to someone to fill the other spot. But so it's essentially the bus system. But if you have any questions, I could funnel them to Mr. Carroll.
I do indeed have questions. I'm going to start, and then I see other counselors as well. So I was hoping he would be here with us. I was just concerned in his little introductory letter to us. He mentions that they're going to review and possibly update route alignments based upon recommendations of analytics and JLUS study. And I was just wondering what the implication or the impact to the town of Groton would be because of their route realignments. I know the last time when they did this, there was concern that I expressed regarding loss of service within the town. And the move was to put people from Groton to other municipalities to move us back and forth rather than to be moving us within to the hub at Stop and Shop Plaza. So I would really like to hear from Mr. Carroll as to what those possible realignments are going to look like. That way we would have an opportunity to voice any concerns that we might have and speak on behalf of our constituents. It was constituents within the city of Groton, particularly on bus route 11, which serves the Branford Manor area, and it also serves the Midway Oval area. And there were going to be changes made that were problematic for our residents in those 2 neighborhoods. So
I will get that information.
thank you very much. Councillor Heed?
That's okay. You basically asked the question I was asking. Just a quick question to John Bertho. What time and day does that meeting happen for the other counselors to know?
It's the 3rd Wednesday of the month, right after the COG meeting, I believe. Let me just double check that. Usually about 10 a.m. or so. But it's hard to remember meeting times now that we don't go live and drive it. Yeah, the COG is the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 8:30. And as soon as that ends, they go right into the seat thing. And almost always it's right about 10 o'clock.
And we are looking for, if another counselor is available during the day, we would love to have a second voice there. Otherwise, our existing rep just votes twice. They get their vote counted as 2 votes. But there was an email sent out with the details. So please, if this piques your interest, respond and we could get you seated there. No pun intended. Counselor Bordelon and then Aubrey, please.
Thank you. I would love to be on that. Unfortunately, time restraints. It's hard to, on a midday if you have to work. So that boxes me out, but I would have loved to do it. My question is just, I think Mayor Grantowski touched upon it. So I just wanted to agree with that. And I also want to just agree in general at looking at expansion and transit in general in our town. We do have a young youth adolescent shelter in Noank, and they try to get them back into facilities and apartments. And it's really hard for them to get, there's no bus that passes through the Noank area. Even if it didn't go into the village all the way, but even if it came at the mouth of that bridge on, I can't think of the road right now, but just something to pass through. There's an expectation that everybody over there doesn't need the bus, I guess. And there is a shelter over there, and there is no public transit on that side of town.
I will relay that and ask about that.
And there is main routeways through Noank that one bus could kind of accommodate and loop back around without actually going into the Noank, because I know the roads in there are quite narrow, but even having an access point would be very helpful. So I'd love some information regarding that. And there is a zone where you can't bring larger vehicles in, but I don't know how that aligns with the area. I'll find out. Yeah, and that's where I stated it would be okay to have it come on that main road right there and pick up by the bridge before it turns in. Thank you.
Councillor Aubrey.
Yes, last year I asked for some consideration for the people down at Avery Point. And I don't think they've ever done anything to accommodate the students in that area that need transportation. The last time I talked to somebody, they were explaining to me it took over an hour to get from New London to the closest stop down there, and they had to make 2 changes in between. So I think that really needs to be looked at. We don't do housing down there, so we at least need to try to do transportation.
I will mention on that.
Thank you very much.
That is the bus 11. That's that same bus. There's one bus that services that whole loop.
Do they go down Eastern Point Road though?
They do.
They do. I have seen that bus a few times on there.
Okay, maybe they made the change.
I find I do their way.
Thank you.
And if by the way, if there is any impact on routes from what they're planning, I'll ask them to come to I think they would anyways, but come to the city and town to make a presentation.
Yeah.
That would be good. Councillor Baumgartner.
To answer Councilor Aubrey's inquiry, there is a stop at Avery Point. They do a loop within inside of the campus.
Seeing no other hands, so we will vote on 10832 seat in the amount of $92,676. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. And we are on to 10833 Southeastern Connecticut Probate Court. I believe this is Councilor Melendez.
I make a motion for cost center 10833 in the amount of $13,433. I so move.
Franco.
Moved by Melendez and seconded by Franco. I don't think Judge Keppel was on our list. Mr. Byrd, is this you again?
Yeah. Just get to the pages that again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just lost my page. I just moved my page. I lost my page.
813.
I probably had that. So, and that is, that's based. There's items by law we have to cover, and essentially, the probate judge just court sets that amount, and we're just required to pay it. So it's essentially just a required pass through.
Yeah, per capita prorated.
Per capita prorated.
Counselor Aubrey, did you have your hand up? Yes.
Yes, please. Do we get reimbursed for the space that we provide? for the court?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands, we will vote on 10833 Southeastern Connecticut Probate Court in the amount of $13,433. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we are on to voter registration 1003 on page 60.
That one has been moved due to a death in the family.
That's what I was wondering, how we were going to be able to handle that. So
It'll be
what
on another day.
day did you move that to, Mr. Burton?
I think it's the 5th.
Yes, it's the 5th.
The 5th.
First
So we're adding voter
First on the first on the docket. There should have been an updated. There was an updated calendar that just went out.
On the,
I have the one, I don't have that on it. So, okay. So voter registration, when was the new budget calendar sent?
yeah, she gave it at the 26th.
26th.
So yesterday. Okay, so I'll have to look. I'll have-
It is on there. Yep. That's
Okay.
first.
Were there any other changes? Do I need to find it now?
No, that's the only thing.
All right, thank you. Okay, so then we are on to information technology. This is account 1011, and this is page 79 in your budget books.
The first, at first it's 76.
Excuse me?
Page 76.
101 is first.
The 101 is first.
Is it possible for Cindy to be on a mic system too? Because it's, you get the echo and then you repeat what she says. It's kind of, it's kind of distracting, actually.
I gave the wrong page number. It should be page 74 is where the narrative starts for 1011. And we are back to Counselor Baumgardner. The appropriation amount is on 76.
Make a motion to approve the financing plan for $1,102,733. So moved.
It's very difficult to hear Counselor Baumgardner. I apologize.
I couldn't hear him either.
Could you repeat, please?
Make a motion to approve the financing plan for $1,102,733. So moved.
Second, Heed.
Moved by Baumgardner and seconded by Heed. And I believe Mr. Hancock is with us today. Good morning, Mr.
Yes.
Hancock. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to present your budget, sir?
Yes, good morning all. This budget is increased by 32,172, about a 3% increase. The breakdown of that is personnel services was up 12,000 and operating expenses were up about 20,172. And the reason for that was we've had 3 new maintenance contracts come online this year for Charity Tracker for Human Services, Archive Social to track all the social media postings for the town, and the town's new website. And those 3 new contracts came up to about 14,200. Other than that, that's about it.
Very good. Do counselors have questions on this particular account? Counselor Aubrey?
I have a question. It's not to the number. Is it all right if I ask it?
Yes, please.
Okay, I noticed recently we're having quite a bit of trouble with the GIS system and being able to get to it. And I was just wondering, is it possible to put a number up on that page when it's not working?
Yeah, I think that my email address is up there. I think it gets emailed to me. This last issue we were having with GIS first became unbeknown to us, but one of our software companies upgraded their software and changed their database. And we weren't notified. So we do an update every night for GIS. We run scripts and it broke those scripts. So we had to dig and find where the break was, and they changed field lengths and stuff like that. So it took us a little while to troubleshoot, but we did find it. So everything is out there working now.
But you have a automatic thing that comes up, it just says across the top. I can't think just what it says, but it doesn't give you any indication of where else you could go to get the information.
we
Telephone
can put
number for the assessor's office or something like that.
Yeah, we can put something up there.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate
No problem.
that. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
I was just curious, you mentioned Charity Tracker. Could you just explain what that is briefly?
Charity Tracker is a software for human services. They currently have a homegrown system that's about 25 years old. This Charity Tracker will do their intake for youth and the social service side. We're right in the middle of a data conversion for the social service side of that, tracking families, kids intake, and replacing their old 20-year-old system.
So it's like an administrative record system for the department.
Correct. And it'll keep logs in their data files and their daily contacts within the system.
Thank you. And then just briefly, who is the town's internet provider?
Revise.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. Can you please explain a little bit more in detail why the personnel services have gone up since 2020 by approximately 40,000?
I really have no control over that. Those are all contractual union contracts. Those numbers are just actually dropped into my budget. I have no real say on what they do.
So these are staff increases. This isn't due to overtime.
No overtime is here. This is just straight salaries.
All right. And the operating expenses had gone up by 20,000, and you had mentioned a few items. Can you go a little bit more in detail about exactly why it had increased by 20,000?
Well, one of them was Charity Tracker that we're replacing the software over there. The other one was Archive Social. It's a social archiving system that is for any FYE that comes through for the town's social media sites, postings to and from. So we'll be in compliance if we ever get an FYE. And the last one was Revise, the new town's website. It's basically the 14,000, and then it's just general maintenance contracts between the 40 maintenance contracts or 45 maintenance contracts. The rest of it covers that.
So may I ask, on the social media tracking, is this when any, I would say, town staff or elected official makes a comment on social media, you have to capture that?
Yes. I don't track your personal, I track the town ones.
Mm-hmm.
So all the Facebook pages that or Instagram that the town has, I get what the town employee posts and what they receive on it.
Okay.
Mr. Burt, go ahead and jump in.
I assume that's for FOIA reasons. Is that why, Brian? So we have a record? Yeah.
Definitely for FOI only.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
So Councilor Bordelon, then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, you can't see over there. Can't see over there.
Councilor Bordelon, you're muted.
Sorry about that. The button's kind of acting aggravated today. In the past, you were talking about needing upgrades. And I know some of those upgrades have happened. Where do we stand today as far as our software in comparison to last fiscal budget year? And what are we still needing?
What software in general? Just overall?
I'm just looking at all these line items as that you oversee. Where do we stand and where are we going and what is still needed?
If we go down the wireless access points, we've completed most of the buildings except for Animal Control, Parks and Rec, and the transfer station. We had a lot of issues come up this past year with COVID and remote people. The second item there is the Tyler EFP, which is all our financials. We are currently live with AP, purchasing, budget, general ledger, vendor self-service. We are currently working on capital assets and P cards, and we're looking to schedule in the near future payroll and human resources to get that project back in line. We did fall a little behind because there was some personnel change up in finance, and obviously a lot of people working from home, so it was tough to really coordinate. So that was that one. The GIS reval data, the planimetrics, the contours, the ortho photos, we have received all that data. All the data has been QC'd, quality controlled. If it wasn't for this last issue with GIS this past week, we are going to be scheduling some downtime, roughly an hour, to update it with the new planimetrics and all the data.
All right. So looking at this, I think it's important as we look at the budget here. This is covering, and there's still some projects that are outstanding that are going to be done. How is this setting us up? I'm looking at the line 10.114, and I see the increase from. Can you speak to that at all? The software maintenance, is that part of those projects, or what accounts for all that?
That's basically all the software maintenance contracts in town. That's the police department, dispatch, assessor's office, tax office, finance office, planning office, public works, all encompassing. These are pretty much all the maintenance contracts within town. So there's probably 40 to 45 different contracts there that I manage, with a few exceptions of the ones over the library.
And the increase there would be software updates, or?
These and software licensing to use their software. Updates are usually included in them. But like with any licensed software, if you don't pay the license, the copyrights, you don't be able to get to use.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying all that.
Okay, no problem.
Are there any other counselors who wish to speak before I ask my second question? So I was just following up. You answered, I think, Revise when I asked about the internet provider, but then you indicated here Revise is the new website. Is it the same thing? Are you receiving internet service from the same company that provides the website?
Yeah, Revise houses our website. We just call it Revise instead of website.
No, I don't mean the host provider for the website. I mean, who do you receive your daily internet service from? So for your email communication, do you have TV? Do you have a voice over internet?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That's okay.
We get our internet service through the CEN network, Connecticut Educational Network.
Good.
They've given us a great deal.
Excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying.
Okay.
All right, and I'm not seeing any other hands. So we will vote, just check. We will vote on 1011 information technology, $1,102,733. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. If we ever get to a count where we're not in agreement, I might ask you to specify and say verbally you're opposed, you're in favor, or whatever. But so far it's been smooth sailing. So
Make
thank
that
you.
smaller so that I can go on there and look for bills.
Okay. Next item is technology replacement, and this is on page 79. Thank you for catching that earlier, Mr. Burt. And this is, let's see, who did we leave off on? This is Councilor Parker, please. Account 6050, please.
I make a motion to move $70,020 for account number 6050. So move.
Second Heed.
Do we move the total appropriation or the total financing plan, Ms. Landry?
Oh, I apologize. We're looking at the wrong number. I withdraw.
I withdraw.
Sorry. Thank you. 69,000. I make a motion to move $69,340. I so move.
Second Heed.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Heed. Mr. Hancock?
Okay, this is the expenditure side for the technology replacement fund. I schedule out and assign everything a date for replacement, and this is an overall decrease this year of 20,875. For we're looking to get like 55 desktop PC replacements, one GIS user PC, 9 laptops, and 1 check validator for the tax office. I think we're also looking for 4 network printers, upgrading them. We also budget for monitor replacements and up to 50 monitors. And we do that on a as-need basis as monitors fail or coming to fail is when they get replaced.
I'm just curious with the move to much online and virtual servicing. Is this sufficient to get us through? The other thing is how much of what was done moved from hard copies to digitized, right? And did that reduce the need for printers?
Not really. We're trying to centralize printers in separate locations. One printer, maybe a copier, just so there's one in a backup. We have been trying to pull them in. We have been doing a pretty good job of it lately. We make the departments think about, if you got 2 or 3 in there, do you really need 3? Pull back 1, and they're usually pretty good about that. And also we're moving forward with the laptops are also going to be desktops. So if, say, a department head has a laptop and a desktop, we're moving forward with giving them a docking station and just giving them a laptop. So they are portable. We reduce 1 desktop, and they can work virtually if they need to.
Thank you very much. Other questions on the technology replacement fund? Seeing none, we will vote on account 6050 in the amount of $69,340. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Thank you, Mr. Hancock.
Okay, thank you.
Good work, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to Mumford Cove Special District. This is account 2060, and it is on page 189. Narrative starts on 189. This is, I believe, Counselor Franco.
Yes. I make a motion for account 2060 in the amount of $21,180.
Second.
Parker.
Second Parker.
Moved by Franco and seconded by Parker for $21,180. Mr. Byrd, are you going to introduce this?
This is simply a tax in Mumford Cove to pay for contractual fire protection from knowing fire.
Do counselors have questions on 2060? Counselor Franco.
And just to clarify, this is a tax that Mumford Cove alone pays, correct?
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Aubry? You're muted, Counselor Aubry.
Who determines the amount, John?
Knowing fire determines it and how much they charge, and then the tax is based on that. And the formula is on page 189.
Okay, thank you.
It hasn't changed in several years, Cindy says.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. That's why I was wondering. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, I see no other hands, so we will vote on 2060 Mumford Cove, $21,180. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you. We are on to account 4010 on page 192. This is Groton Sewer District. And I believe we are on Counselor Heed. The amounts are on page 194, Counselor Heed.
All right, I will go ahead and make a motion for $1,396,418.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Heed and seconded by Franco. And Mr. Byrd, are you presenting this?
Sure.
Or is
Yeah,
Andrew?
the essentially just it's a sewer district tax that helps fund. It's a debt service fund. Sewer district tax pays off bonds. Currently, the only outstanding one is the Clean Water Loan Fund, but we are looking at that.
Okay.
Goss Cove.
Yes.
The Goss Cove pump station will be going in there. So it's just bond debts. We don't have. We have to just pay what the schedule shows.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Looking forward, I don't see where it gives us information on future debt service payments. And is there any future bonding that you're foreseeing?
No future bonding. No. What about reflecting Goss Cove?
That's be in the 22 budget.
Goss Cove won't be until the 22. No, where this is 23.
Right. It'll
Okay.
be.
It'll be in the 23 budget.
I'm sorry, can you say that? What is
Sure.
that?
The Goss Cove one that we're issuing now, the payments will start in the next budget.
It will be.
Okay.
Oh, they will. I mean, is it reflected on this?
Yes.
Oh, it is reflected in this list. Sorry. 190. 192.
Shows what we are.
Oh, 192 shows it.
We're estimating. But
That we're estimating.
There's no additional sewer debt planned at this.
No additional debt plan, though.
So you don't have any more big projects coming forward?
No.
Thank you.
Anything else Cindy said would require a referendum.
Thank you.
And Goss Cove is listed as the sewer fund pump station, correct? The third item in the bottom chart.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Counselor Heed.
Okay, so that was one question. The other question would be, what is it? What are the reasons for delinquent accounts that you have listed here?
Tax.
Right.
Just-
Just plan.
Yeah, collecting on delinquent taxes that people haven't paid.
Okay, yeah, what I was kind of getting at is I just wanted to understand why they're not paying the tax. If you have reasons, I'd just be nice to know.
Same as any other taxes, just unable to.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I was asking about the debt as well. Also, is it possible that the finance Landry can be on a separate mic so it doesn't have to be the cross back and forth? It's just hard to catch.
We can't because then you get huge feedback. I can move the laptop door, but that's.
Yeah, maybe like pass the mic or something, because then it's just.
I don't.
Like,
it's the computer itself as the mic.
yeah. Maybe for the next meeting then, maybe in different room or something. It's just a lot of cross.
The reason we join here is just so we can talk to each other. I could always mute when we cross talk.
That's fine. It's a little hard to track conversation as all.
I'll mute myself.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. So we are looking at 4010 Groton Sewer District in the amount of $1,396,418. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you. Now we are on to 1073 contributions to other funds. And this is page 168. And I don't remember who that was last. Was that Councillor Heed last? So it was Councillor Heed last. So Councillor Aubrey, please, for account 1073.
Bottom number,
Yes, please.
I move the number for account 1073, $1,660, 620. Thank you.
Second.
660. Oh, do they? Oh, excuse me. Cindy says that they have to be done individually. Are you sure?
I withdraw.
You want them individually rather than as one whole number?
I'm sorry.
Oh, Cindy made a mistake. It's okay. She apologizes.
All right, so here's what we have for Ms. Watrous. Here's what we have. We have for 1073, $1,660,620 moved by Aubrey and seconded by Heed.
Seconded by Heed.
Okay, Mr. Burt, did you want to just introduce what this is and so the people at home understand what we're doing?
It's paying into a series of us moving from general fund to a series of other funds. There's 6 different funds there. One is the reval fund. The first one for $300,000 that supports for the 5-year reval. We put in some each year to pay for that, which is this year. This is the final one for this year's final payment for this year's. Yeah, this is the final amount for this year's. Then we start putting away for the next 5-year one next year. The computer replacement fund to fund those purchases of computers we discussed, $64,515. The TIF fund is new. That is, now that we have a TIF district, any increase over what was collected previously goes into this fund. And then ultimately the council decides what will be used in the TIF district, or you can move out money into the general fund. Right now, there's only 3,638 in it though. Fleet vehicles, last year we cut it to 0. This time we've got 633,000. And we will later get to actually detail the fleet. So if the change, we come back and change this amount. The fleet maintenance and fleet fuel are both calculated by Public Works for what they anticipate for the expenditures. Usually pretty good about that. They're pretty accurate typically.
Do councilors have questions? Councilor Aubrey.
Do you think your fleet, your vehicles might be electric?
None of these are the replacement of old trucks. Part of the problem we have with electric, we do have some hybrids. Pure electric, though, our mechanics can't work on for one thing. And these are heavy duty, mostly. I think they're all either pickup. They're all trucks that we need something heavy dutier for.
Thank you.
We do like our, for lighter duty, we do like the hybrids that we have the 2 or 3 of.
Councilor Bordelon. Councilor Bordelon, you're muted.
Thank you. Speaking the fleet maintenance account, the increase there, could you speak a little to that, like what we're looking at as far as maintenance and upcoming costs there?
Well, it's all based on Public Works analyzing what's wrong with vehicles, or what they see is at the end of life. It's getting worn, and we need to do something the next year. It's just them analyzing each vehicle and putting together what we think, typical maintenance plus if there's anything that they know is coming up that's a little bit bigger one. Like I said, Public Works puts that together, and they've historically been pretty much right on.
I guess that doesn't really help me understand like exactly what is being done.
I'm afraid I don't have that. I could ask for that though.
Yeah, that's so is anyone here from that for this account, or?
No one is here. It's usually just covered by finance. Sorry, Cindy's looking to see if there's any detail anywhere. Like I said, it's usually pretty accurate. I can't get a breakdown.
I just think
Cindy's going to pop in.
I think if we have fleet maintenance, and you said they're the ones that submit their asking, I think it would be important to have them present to speak to their repairs in the future. Thank you. I mean, that just would make the most sense to me. I mean, if they're the ones submitting this budget, I think it would be helpful to have them to be able to clarify their budget,
Director Landry is going to try to address some of this.
Hi. Yes, Public Works puts this together, but they look at historically. We have a tremendous fleet here at the town of Groton, and they're looking at what is everyday maintenance or annual maintenance, just like you would have on your own vehicle. This would include, oil changes or new tires, wiper blades, or if there was a vehicle that they knew was going to need, I don't know, a transmission or something like that. So they do a very good job of looking at our fleet, and we do have an aging fleet. So this is, I believe the maintenance on this is, some of the vehicles could be considerable, but it is based on historical cost for our large vehicle fleets. Does that help?
That helps. I just think in the future it'd be great to have them. I mean, it's one thing to say they do a wonderful job, which no one's discrediting that by asking what is in the account and what needs to move forward. That's not a discredit to the service or their abilities whatsoever. It's more of a question of just, you can ask questions like, what exact vehicles are we repairing? To kind of see, I think it's important to know what we're repairing and what maybe we should not repair, considering, maybe it's beyond repair, or how old is the vehicle? It would be great to have more information under this item to be able to accurately assess. I understand that, they're not here today, so therefore maybe they'll be present at another time, or maybe you can submit some information to us after this meeting. But again, I think it would be helpful to have representation to discuss not just the financials as you're doing, but maybe the more technical side. Thank you.
Okay, could I add, please?
Yes, please.
I just want to reiterate that this is the contribution to the fund. And when the Public Works budget comes and he talks about the expenditures of the fund, of the fleet fund, you'd be able to ask your questions at that time. So you could ask him what he's including in the fleet maintenance line item. But then again, this is just the contribution to the fund. It's not the expenses. And that will be on Monday, the 19th, the Public Works budget, as well as the fleet budget.
Yeah, I can respectfully hear that. I just think it's hard to vote on a number and then say, ask about it later. That's all. It'd be helpful to have it at the beginning of the process. So I'm, saying vote on a number tonight, but you can ask your questions later after you already voted on it. So that kind of doesn't help me. So it would be helpful to have the connected. Thank you ahead of time.
Okay, we have several counselors who wish to speak. So we'll go with Councilor Melendez, please.
Yes, just for Mr. Burt, this is the account 1073 where I would like to add, is it possible to add a contribution to other fund for future road costs? I know it can't be in this year's budget, but just going forward.
That would be a CIP item. It wouldn't be here.
Okay, so we can't add like contribution to the, because you have a CIP fund, right? There's just a fund there of CIP money.
Again, I think it'd be great to capture, our finance and our manager's conversation in real time.
Councilor Bordelon, they haven't started answering yet. So if we could give them a minute to reply, please.
But they're discussing to each other, and I think we're in a meeting, and I think it's important.
I think they didn't realize the mic was muted. Please be patient. Mr. Burt, is Ms. Landry there to respond to Councilor Melendez?
Because the expense. Well, do you want to?
Well, I'll just stand
She's
behind it.
Okay.
I'll just stand. Typically, the road paving is through the CIP, and that's a separate contribution that we make. It's a separate function. So I would think if you wanted to add additional money to the CIP that was earmarked for paving, that would be the function that we would put that under, and not contributions to other funds, since the CIP is already funded in a different spot.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, any way you guys think is best, I think we should just like similar to the revaluation fund, if we could put money aside for just roads so that, bonding becomes, less of a possibility in the future, so we can stay up on our roads, whichever way you guys think is best, I'd be supportive of that.
Okay, I will add that there was a time a few years back that we had added, some of you may remember, a different cost center in the contribution to the CIP, and in an effort to fund the projects that were approved and then start putting aside some money into the fund balance. But I think probably it was fiscal 18 when things kind of went haywire. we didn't do that again. So that would be a way to revisit that, where we would increase the fund balance and we could set it aside just for road paving. But it would be at that point is when we would look at that contribution.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's looking ahead then. Thank you, Councilor Melendez, for raising that issue. I'd like to welcome Moderator Evan, who is an ex officio member. You have the floor, Moderator Evan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to attend and ask a question. I am just interested in that cost center on fleet maintenance 10737. And I'm curious about the this year's use of that funds. I'm wondering, with COVID, it seems like a giant chunk of the town's employee base is working at home. And so I would expect to see some cost savings there in fleet maintenance for the current fiscal year. And I was wondering why I didn't see that. Or why we
Most
didn't
of
see
it,
that.
most of the vehicles are police and public works, and they're not working from home. So most of them are in use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Franco, you were next.
Thank you. As I've gone ahead in my budget book, and maintenance and vehicle replacements, fleet replacements are further ahead in further detail, because I was looking at which vehicles should be replaced and realized we will be dealing with that in a future meeting. My question, though, is regarding the TIF fund. So can you explain how this new account is going to work in here? And there is a small amount of money in there. Can you go a little bit more into detail on how this is going to work when you see it here? And so I'll say my question last answer.
Sure. As I mentioned, when you're in a TIF district, property values go up. So let's say you had $100 was the typical collection. Now it's 102. The $2 would go into this fund as the values increase. And then the council makes basically a policy decision how much they do want to put 25% back into that TIF district for whatever improvements and eventually take out 75%. It's really just a council policy decision on what you want to do with it.
Okay. So this is just going to be the place where we keep our extra TIF money
until you decide a use for it. And this year, like I said, there's not much money there. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Councilor Baumgartner's next.
Question was answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Heed, you're up.
Thank you. I was also going to ask about the TIF, but my question actually is, if we allot the money out of the TIF and it's over 10,000, does it then go to the RTM? I don't remember this.
No, it's just a revenue source, not an expenditure. Now, if you decide I want to, move it for an expenditure or use it for a particular expenditure, that's, over 10,000, that would be different. It would go to the RTM.
Oh, right. That's what I was asking.
Oh, yeah, for an expenditure, right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a holding account.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Councilor Aubry.
I was just wondering, with the current circumstances, do you think your fuel numbers should be a little higher?
Public Works calculates that. And like I said, Cindy's going to add something.
Okay.
We're part of a consortium that we purchase our fuel from, and we were fortunate this year to lock in at a lower price than we had last year.
Okay, thank you.
But you're welcome.
By the way, next year, what we'll do is before we get to this fund, we'll ask Public Works to do fleet prior to it.
Thanks.
Are there any other first-time councilors who wish to speak before we go to second time? Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor.
Thank you. Would it be appropriate to hold this item until we, as Councilor Franco stated, looking forward, which I did read, it just seems to me my questions regarding the line item here do directly relate to the future discussion. So therefore, to make a proper informed decision, I do not feel comfortable voting on that without we do not have our maintenance public works gentleman here. And I think it would be made sense to be part of one package to really kind of clearly work it all through. So that's just my thought. Is there any way to add that?
It's entirely up to the council. This is just how it's, as far as I know, always been done according to Cindy. Because this is just a, could I finish real quick? This is just the
Yes.
contribution to the fund. If, let's say, you cut something, you have two options. You could go back and change this amount, or the extra money would stay in that fund, fleet fund for help for next year.
So
That was going to be my statement as well. When we get to the other accounts, and at that point, we can change things based on what we're hearing. We want to increase, we want to decrease. We always have the opportunity to come back and adjust these numbers. So I would say we should go forward with this vote today with the knowledge that we can revisit this and adjust it at the end of the budget process. Did you wish to add anything, Councilor Bordelon? I'm sorry.
So what would be an appropriate motion if I didn't feel comfortable doing that? Just saying, just vote it down, or vote to table this item to add it to the next meeting agenda where it's all kind of together. What would be the
Don't use table. That would go. I'm trying to find the account.
Yeah.
That wouldn't go till the 19th of April.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, that would have to be voted by a majority of the council. So one councilor cannot make that determination. So that is your choice. We have other people that wish to speak again as well. So
I'd like to make that do I make a motion? That's what I'm asking you.
You're going to have to, yes.
I'd like to make a motion, just not saying that any change is going to occur or that there's nothing wrong with the account necessarily, but I just think it fits better to be moved in conjunction with the April 19 discussions.
So I hate to do this because I don't like to put words in other people's mouths. So what are you asking us to do, Councilor Bordelon?
I'm asking if we could take this item and move it to the April 19th so that we could have proper representation and proper discussion on the item.
So you'd like to postpone the vote on 1073 to April 19th. Is that correct, Councilor Bordelon?
That sounds great to me.
Is there a second?
Second, Franco.
The motion to postpone 1073 until April 19th is made by Bordelon and seconded by Franco. We've heard the rationale from the maker of the motion. Is there any discussion on this motion? All those in favor of postponing, please raise your hand and keep your hand up until I call names, please. Bordelon? Opposed? Please raise your hand and keep your hand up until I call names. Melendez is opposed. Baumgardner is opposed. Aubry is opposed. Parker is opposed. Heed is opposed. Granatowski is opposed. 7, who did I miss? Melendez, Baumgardner, Aubry, Parker, Heed, Granatowski.
Joe's not here, so that you got them all.
Did you get Franco's vote?
Did you get Councilor Franco?
No. Where is Councilor Franco? Which way did you vote, Councilor Franco? I'm sorry.
I don't want to postpone.
You're opposed. Thank you. That's who I was missing. Thank you for counting. And then abstentions? 0 abstentions. That motion fails. 1 in favor, Bordelon. The rest opposed and 0 abstentions. So we are back to voting on 1073. And I see no other hands, so we will vote on the motion, which was $1,660,620. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Bordelon.
Thank you. So we have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention, Bordelon. Thank you. That motion passes. Okay, we are going to be starting outside agencies next. Would council like a 5-minute break before we start outside agencies?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Could I
okay.
interject
thank
one
you.
thing?
Yes, Mr. Burt, before we break, please, Mr. Burt wanted to ask.
I wondered if we could, before break, handle Ledgelight. I know that Steve is late for a clinic that he has to set up. I wonder if there's any consideration for that.
Let me see, that's under 1084 on page 177.
Which is the next one, yes.
Is the council okay with taking care of Ledgelight so Mr. Mansfield can take care of public health? Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so we are on to account 1084, and we are going to consider cost center 0, which is Ledge Light Health District. The dollar amount is on page 178. And help me out here. Is this Bordelon or Melendez?
Bordelon.
Bordelon, thank you.
I make a motion for 10840 Ledge Light Health in the amount of $291,729. I so move.
Second, Parker.
Franco?
I heard 3 people. Moved by Bordelon, seconded by Parker. Mr. Mansfield.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Just to clarify, thank you very much, Town Manager John Burt, for letting me jump in here. I actually don't have a clinic today. I have a clinic tomorrow, but we're doing clinic preparations. But I do very much appreciate the consideration. Ledge Light Health District continues to provide comprehensive public health services to the town and the city of Groton. Just to remind everyone, the town actually does pay for the city's portion of being part of Ledge Light Health District. In December, the Ledge Light Health District Board of Directors voted to approve my proposal to increase the FY 22 member contributions from the current per capita rate of $7.37 to $7.59. As you're probably aware from previous years, the district has been able to maintain a flat per capita rate of $7.37 since 2018. And while the budgetary and operational burden placed on my organization continues to increase, we've kept that flat for our municipalities. Obviously, things are a bit different this year. This increase really helps to assure that our continued response to the pandemic and all of our other public health responsibilities that have to continue to occur per statute and code regulations continue to be met. So it really is new ground we're covering here. And I should also add the state contribution to local health districts has been reduced by 10% in the current budget year, and the governor's proposed budget calls for an additional 10% cut to funding for local health districts in FY 22. I will emphasize the fact that that 10% budget cut is proposed in the middle of a pandemic. Ledge Light Health District has a very strong fiscal history, and I've worked with our board of directors to try and keep our per capita contributions for member municipalities as low as possible, while still providing all the comprehensive public health services that we're required to do, and of course, in a response to the pandemic. And another reminder, the current per capita rate that we charge our municipalities is still lower than it was a decade ago. So on behalf of our staff and board of directors and all of our Medical Reserve Corps volunteers who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting during this pandemic, especially associated with the vaccination response, we thank you for your continued support, and happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mansfield. Do you have questions for Mr. Mansfield? Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do. I have worked with your health improvement collaborative efforts in the community, and I can't speak enough about the services that you guys provide, and they definitely really showed through with the current pandemic and the outreach and efforts that you guys have gone great lengths and looking at the inclusion and diversity issues, as well as access to healthcare, to making sure that the community at large is aware of inequalities, both financial and food, and just everything that you guys do. It's just not the medical side, or people, I guess, think sometimes that Ledge Light is, just the inspectors of restaurants, but the amount that you guys do is just unbelievable. So I can't thank you enough. And with that, I wonder, these numbers that you estimate, is this going to be enough? I mean, we have the rise in the variances coming through and other things that are coming on board. I know some other towns are looking at like mobile units to go into dense areas where people are having trouble getting access, let it be no access for transportation to get to these injection sites, and they're bringing the mobile units like to the neighborhoods. Is there any thoughts on that? And how do you feel moving forward? Do you think you guys are going to be covered enough? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments, Counselor. Yes, I do think we're in a good position. When I brought my recommendation to the Board of Directors, it was after a thorough review of all of our finances, including our designated fund balance. I should point out that our designated fund balance has a specific line item for response to public health emergency. So we've been essentially setting aside money, at least since I've been Director of Health, for such an occasion. So we are prepared. We have actually in this budget allocated a transfer of just under $89,000 from that designated fund balance into our operational budget for FY22. That's what it's there for. That's what we've been planning for. We didn't come into this pandemic with a surprised look on our face. You know, we were prepared for it. So from a financial perspective, I think we're in good shape. I will mention the fact that you're probably not fully aware that health districts, unlike hospitals and other vaccine providers, we don't get reimbursed for any vaccination activities that we do. So while hospitals, CHC, other medical providers get reimbursed for every shot that they give, local health districts are not medical providers, so we don't get a penny. So all of that work comes out of our core fund. But again, we're prepared for it, and the percent increase that we passed on to our municipalities, and specifically for Groton, it's 2.3%, which is based on obviously the per capita increase and a small decrease in the population of both the town and the city. So I think we're in good shape, at least for FY22, but we do have a good designated fund balance that will help us carry through.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to echo Councilor Bordelon's comments. As someone who recently tested positive for COVID-19, I can speak to, from a firsthand experience, just the professionalism and know-how of not just Director Mansfield, but his entire staff, including his contact tracers and just the several dedicated men and women who are on the front lines right now, keeping us all safe. Now, you had mentioned that the town pays for the city portion of the budget allocation to Ledgely Health District, and that's done on a per capita basis. Just want to clarify, you also mentioned that the health district does not get reimbursed for the vaccine activity. I don't want to misquote you. Would that include like the various clinics that you folks are putting on?
Specifically, I'm talking about vaccine administration. So I think it's probably good to put it in context. If you go to CVS and you get vaccination there, CVS is able to submit to third-party payers for reimbursement. They still don't charge the individual for the vaccine, but they get reimbursed for every shot that they give. Local health districts, unless they are able to bill, which most health districts and departments aren't. Some of the bigger cities do actually have billing ability. So we don't get reimbursed for any clinic activities that we provide. We don't get reimbursed for putting shots into people's arms.
Now, Town Manager Byrd, I know, you have been looking at, you along with our council and all of town government will be looking on how to spend American Rescue Plan dollars in the future. And maybe that's just something to keep in mind when in the future, both the town and the city continue to partner with Ledgely Health District on these various vaccine clinics. Potentially, if we can tap into those dollars to partner with Ledgely Health District on these clinics, but also maybe look to defray some of Ledgely Health District's direct costs as well, just to put the idea out there. And maybe that's something, Mr. Manfield, do you think that would be, provide some help to Ledgely to defray costs in the future?
I think that's a really good point. It reminds me of something, and I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my email real quick. I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but I think probably a number of people on the call are not aware that both the town and city receive CRF funding for pandemic response. That came directly from the state of Connecticut, and it did not come to health districts. So I actually put out a request to all of our municipalities and requested that each municipality designate 10% of those CRF funds to Ledgelight Health District for pandemic response. And I'm happy to say that every municipality stepped up, and Groton provided just under $37,000 of their CRF funds. They received a total of $367,847. So, that may not sound like a lot of money, just under $37,000, but we do have 10 municipalities. So it ended up being just under $114,000 of support. And that funding can be used for anything we deem necessary to respond to the pandemic. So I do thank the town and city of Groton for responding to that request that I made back in December. And hopefully we will have our own funding streams in the future. We've been petitioning both the Department of Public Health and the governor's office for increased funding for pandemic response. But very much appreciate the suggestion, Councillor.
Thank you again, Steve, for all you do, and no further questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I would also just add that perhaps we should be contacting our legislative delegation for when the governor's budget is considered, that these cuts to local health districts not be made in the time of a pandemic. Councillor Heed.
I was also going to suggest that, but a secondary question, is it at all possible for you to set up that billing capacity so that you can pass along costs to the insurance company's administrative costs if you need to?
It is a possibility and something we've considered. We've actually, years ago, probably 5 years ago, we went through the beginnings of the process. And the bottom line is we don't have a need to do so. The amount that I should say, during normal times, we don't have a need to do so. The operational burden and the time necessary to set up those third-party billing systems and maintain them are quite cumbersome. And we don't provide any of those services on a routine basis. Obviously, if we knew that we were not going to be reimbursed for vaccinations prior to the pandemic, then that's something we would have put in place. The reason why we didn't expect to need to do that is because about 11 years ago during H1N1, I was, what was I 11 years ago? I was Deputy Director of Health at Ledgelight 11 years ago. We weren't able to bill, but we didn't need to bill because we were reimbursed directly by the Connecticut Department of Public Health for every H1N1 vaccination that we received. So the assumption of most health districts and departments across the state was the fact that that model would be similar, but they chose to go down a different path. So despite the fact that we have specific vaccination responsibilities, for instance, we were in charge of assuring that our child care providers and people who work in educational institutions were vaccinated before the end of March. We, as I said, we did not, despite the mandate, we did not receive any funding for that particular task. Yeah, in hindsight, we absolutely would have and should have set up that billing system, but we simply were not expecting the state to deviate from their previous practice of providing us a per shot reimbursement without the billing mechanisms in place. So it's definitely something we'll consider moving forward.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak for the first time before we go to second time speakers? Councillor Bordelon, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just had one more question. Is there any talk about bringing in any mobile units and kind of developing our own hotspot of vaccinations or education in dense areas at all? Is that at all part of the projected plan down the road once we meet the deadlines? and maybe try to scoop up the remaining folks that maybe are maybe being underserved or just have no means to get there. Is that at all in the thoughts for the future?
Yeah, it's, I think probably the best way to answer that is Ledgelight Health District has been very active in addressing the unmet needs of at-risk populations in our municipalities. So we've set up clinics in the heart of areas where people are underserved, typically underserved. The governor has put out a mandate in cooperation with the Department of Public Health that 25% of our vaccination allocation go toward underserved populations. I don't have an exact number, but I'm sure we're well over that. So yes, we've been doing that since the beginning of the pandemic. We've been working with community partners to reach out to those organizations, those community health workers who have established trusted relationships with those members of our community, and we've been very successful. So to answer the first part of your question, yes, mobile vaccination clinics are already planned. There are 3 separate clinics planned for the City of New London, one at a food distribution site, the other 2 outside a Dollar General store in underserved populations. We didn't have any say what municipality these mobile vaccination clinics that are sponsored by FEMA, which municipalities they came to, but we were involved in selecting the locations so we can serve those populations. We are one of, I don't know how many, at least a dozen municipalities, New London being one of our 10, a dozen municipalities in the state of Connecticut that were chosen by FEMA to send these mobile vaccination clinics. I would emphasize the fact that, on the surface, it sounds like a really great thing, and it is a great thing that we're getting those resources into our communities. But those will be 3 separate vaccination clinics where they're planning on vaccinating around 250, perhaps a little more, individuals per day over a 3-day period. Ledgelight Health District vaccinates 500 people in 3 hours. So, when we're talking about getting needles into arms, we're efficient at it. We've been doing it for literally been planning and doing it for more than a decade. So when it comes to getting shots into the arm, we're really good at doing that. This is just another piece that will contribute to getting to those underserved populations. But it is a lot of time and effort to set up what they describe as a spaceship coming into the City of New London, completely self-contained, able to do the vaccinations in place. But brick and mortar. And in addition to the feds, in addition to FEMA, the Connecticut Department of Public Health has also established, I don't know how many, the number keeps going up, but it's more than 20 vans that will have similar abilities to go into different communities across the state. Governor Lamont just, I believe, announced that on his Wednesday press conference. I haven't heard any details about that, but I'm sure that will just be another piece of the puzzle and allow us to respond to those populations or vaccinate those populations that are typically underserved.
Thank you. I think it's great. And is there any lines that people can call if they need a ride? Is anything available in that capacity yet? Like, so say there's somebody on this side of the bridge who really needs a shot and that FEMA pop-up, is there a ride number or assistance with that as of yet? There
is. You probably have read in the paper, Uncas Health District and Ledgelight Health District partnered with Southeastern Area Transit and our 2 tribal nations to provide vaccination transportation, free bus passes to go to those vaccination clinics at both the Mohegan Sun and the Mashantucket Pequot tribal nations. So that's one available avenue. As I mentioned before, the spaceship that's going to be coming into New London is one of the primary reasons we chose these 2 particular locations is they're walkable. So people in the community will be able to walk directly to these clinics. Different municipalities within Ledgelight Health District have set up different mechanisms for getting populations, perhaps populations that are not homebound but have a difficult time getting around. Social service agencies, some of our senior centers have set up transportation mechanisms at our clinic tomorrow at the Waterford Public Works Complex. It's a second dose clinic, but about a month ago we had our first dose clinic there, and there were a number of municipal buses that showed up at that clinic, each containing a number of people who wouldn't otherwise be able to get there. So I'd say depending on the municipality you look at, the mechanisms vary.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Councillor.
All right, I see no other hands, so we will vote on 10840 Ledgelight Health in the amount of $291,729. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. And Mr. Mansfield, thank you, and thank your team at Ledgelight for all you've done to get us through this past year. And we still have a way to go, but we do appreciate your work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for squeezing me in before the break. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to recess. It is 10:35, and we will take a 5-minute recess. So we will be back at 10:40, everybody. Thank you. pages 178 with all of the cost centers listed out separately. And then they are broken out in the addendum. So we just finished cost center 0. We are on to cost center 1 VNA, and this is broken into 2 cost centers. One VNA is school health and one is health promotion. Mr. Burt, was anybody here from VNA?
They are not.
Okay. All right. So we are on cost center 1 VNA. This is 10841, and this is Counselor Melendez, I believe.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for cost center 10841 in the amount of $1,132,493. So moved.
Second, Heed.
Moved by Melendez and seconded by Heed. The amount of $1,132,493. The addendum page is page 23. And I think they have their information presented all as one. So it's 23 through 27, I believe, if you need to refer to details. Mr. Burt or Ms. Landry, did you wish to speak to this at all?
Just to mention that this is figured out in conjunction with the Board of Ed determines how many hours they need, how many people they need, and then the BNA just puts numbers to those costs. And the difference in price this year is due to salary increases.
Thank you very much. So this is the school health cost center that we'll be voting first. Councilor Ober, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I just had a question in the fact that, do you anticipate as we complete the schools that this might go down a little bit?
I don't believe so. This is what they've determined they still need for hours. So at this point, they think they need this, the Board of Ed, for this year.
Yeah, I understand for this year.
Yeah,
but
maybe the next year after, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, because I'd like to see it go down.
Yeah.
With the consolidation of schools.
You would think it would. Yeah.
Well, on A24, page A24, we also plan to eliminate 1 RN position and 1 SHA position due to the decrease in number of schools. So looks like they're looking forward with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know whose hand went up first. I see Councilor Heed and Bordelon. So Councilor Heed and then Bordelon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, of course, I totally support this and have no real questions. My question is kind of just, why is it visiting nurses and not staff from the school? Is there any reason for that?
More cost effective for one, and then if you moved it into the Board of Ed budget, it would increase MBR, minimum budget requirement. Yeah.
I know. I was just curious why it was not part of that budget, or why they weren't considered.
I don't know. That was set up many years ago, so I don't know how that was determined.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. My understanding too is the fluctuation in this account can also change based on the needs of students that move into our district. So, and even though we want to see a decrease, which is great, my understanding is also that some students require one-on-one medical assistance for certain disabilities. And so that fluctuates. It's not just the school nurse per se, but it's also under this, is it also like one-to-one care, John, as well as, students who need like injections and other physical therapies and a lot of other items, right?
Yes.
So under the Developmental Disabilities Act and under IDA, children are entitled to an individual education plan, and some of their education plans require one-to-one services depending on their disability. So a school nurse cannot encompass all of that because she's taking care of the general population's, skimmed knees, medications, but some students need actual, they may have a feeding tube or other things that they have to have. So that number can fluctuate. 5 students could move out, but we could get 4 more in that have high needs. That's my understanding. So that number could ever be changing, and it could go up and it could go down. So that is not just school nurses. It's one-to-one care, nurses as well. Physical therapy, occupational therapy as well. Is that all under this number?
I thought that was special ed. I'm not sure. I could be wrong though.
That's why I was asking if.
Yeah, we're not sure.
We're not
I thought
sure.
it was special ed too.
Yeah, the physical therapy I think is special ed money.
Right. Okay. So but the one-to-one nurses, if a child needs a certain type of, that would be under this code, or is that another special ed code as well?
I'm not sure, but they've evaluated based on the current student population. And then as necessary, they would change it depending on who, as you said, who moved into the district. We have to accommodate, so we would take care of that.
So this is just school nurses is what I'm asking, I guess?
That's what I'm assuming.
Yes, it is.
Just the school nurses.
Correct.
And then what's the V&A health promo?
That's a separate line item that we're going to do next.
Okay, so this is just school nurses under there. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Franco, and then Aubrey for a second time.
Thank you. Since looking at the budget in 2020 going into the 2022, it's been an increase of 400,000. And I'm looking at the school budget book right now, and our enrollment has slightly gone down since 2022. So I'm not actually understanding, and we've also consolidated the middle schools. So I'm not exactly sure why it would go up, that much since 2020. And I understand it's the school that sets this number, but I also don't understand. That's a large amount.
They've increased. So V&A is Yale New Haven Health, right? And they've increased their cost per hour for the RN and for the aide. So with the school, the way I understand, if I'm wrong, the school comes up with the number of hours that they're going to require to staff the buildings and meet the students' needs. And then they have to just multiply that by what Yale New Haven visiting nurse is going to charge us.
One thing to add, the reason it looks lower in 2020 was the original amount was higher, but then with COVID hitting, the schools closed and that reduced it. So this is the actual spent you're seeing. It was a little over $1 million, I know, back in 20. I'm pretty sure. You looking for that, Cindy? Cindy's checking for the actual budgeted number for 20.
$1,081,000.
$1,081,000 for 20.
No, for 21.
Oh, for 21. So what about 20 then?
1,081,000
Oh, both. It was 1,081,000 both for 20 and 21.
Well, I see on the 20, it says 722.
Yeah, that's not the original budgeted though. That's what they spent because of the school closures due to COVID. It was actually budgeted at though 1,081,000, same as this current year. But then they didn't spend it because the school closed. School's all closed.
All right. Thank you very much.
Are there any other first-time speakers before we go to second-time speakers? Councilor Aubrey, you have the floor for the second time.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, usually we have somebody here for every item that we're talking about. And we seem to have a bit of a failure of that today. And I'm wondering as we go forward, if we can say, look, if you want us to look at your budget, you're going to have to show up. I mean, what is it to turn on a computer?
Okay.
They don't even have to come to the building. So this is very disappointing.
So just the letters that go to them always say, it's your option and they choose whether they want to come or not. But if you want, we will require everybody next year.
Well, we can just cut their budgets this year. I'm really frustrated by this because this is an item that last year I went into in great depth, asking a lot of questions. And now we have nobody here this year to tell us if there were any changes made after the requests that we had with them. I mean, what have we had? One person?
What you might want to do is ask questions on Monday night because it's the Board of Ed really driving it, what they're using and would have a lot of the detail.
I understand that, but when we're doing our budget and these people need our money to make these things work well, I have no problem with that, but I want a representative and I want somebody that can answer those questions. We shouldn't be putting this on you, John and Cindy. The appropriate person should be here answering our questions. And my feeling is they don't want to, then make a change in it. And then I bet they show up the next time.
Well, like I said, though, they're not required at this point. It's up to them if they want to, but we could require it starting next year.
Well, we got to.
I'll make a note for that.
John. Yeah, look, I'm sorry. This is just really pissing me off. Excuse me. This is really upsetting me because we're trying to answer each other's questions. And what do we know? Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Any other first-time speakers before second-time speakers? Okay, so we have Councilor Franco for the second time and then Bordelon for the second time.
Just very quickly, were there any grants or federal money to offset VNA increases as well? I do know, there's been a lot of money going out from the federal government to help with certain type of healthcare. And maybe they, especially HHS with the federal government has given out money to healthcare specifically.
I think it would be up to them on the COVID dollars that they're receiving if they want to use it to offset. It's our budget, though. We don't believe there's anything that they're planned for it now.
Because I do know that some of the PPP money was also to be used for salaries and employee payroll. So these are, I know this isn't up to you, Mr. Burt, to answer these questions. But I'm just seeing that if federal money is coming in to offset payroll, I'm just wondering.
The new money, I don't know if they haven't put a plan together for the new money at the ARP dollars because we don't know. Well, they know the amount now, but until they accept it and get official notification of what's going on, they haven't planned the usage of it yet.
Right, because there has been at least 3 phases of there's PPP, there's HHS, there's
reimbursement for costs. Yeah.
Because working in healthcare and being the business manager there, I am fully aware of all of these funding and monies and how they're supposed to be applied and used. And so I'm just curious as to if they're getting federal dollars to offset their payroll and then we're fully funding their payroll. I'm just curious as to how that's being applied.
So I would, I'm sorry, as Mr. Burt said, make a note and then we can take that up with Superintendent Austin and see if she has any answers for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Burt, did you want to add something before we go to Councilor Bordelon?
Oh, that's fine.
Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor for the second time.
Thank you. No, I want to align my marks with Councilor Aubry to an extent that it is, again, a little frustrating to talk about a budget. We don't have anybody here. I know that papers were submitted and that there's numbers like $71.50 per hour for the RN and $24.25 an hour for a school aide. But how many school aides and how many nurses? Did we have a number on that?
It's in the book, but it's really tiny. If you look on 826.
Yeah, page 26 has the breakdown between all the schools.
Right.
Really tiny.
I can read it, but man, it's hard.
And what's the number up from last year or down? Do we know?
Really
how many we're staffing this year compared to last year? But I do agree that it would seem to me, and I know you said, John, maybe next year, I think even further, I think we have RTM still, and we still have the rest of the budget to go through. We just started. I think it's important we should send out an email and saying that it would be in the best interest for staff to be present. I don't think we need to wait till next year. I think we send out an email and encourage again, and also let them know that maybe they can show up at the RTM because they're going to get the budget next. And it would be nice to have this discussion and dialect appropriately. So that would be.
I agree. Yeah. And I don't know, we don't do the scheduling for the RTM, the town clerk and the moderator do, but I'm sure they probably agree.
Yeah, I think we should send something out on behalf of town council and ask people. We have several other budget sessions and presentations. People should be present, including our own town staff.
And the Board of Ed should definitely be there for this one.
Well, also VNA, they explain their service.
Yeah, both of them.
I mean, with that, I know there's a lot of education funds that come to us that the Board of Ed does not get back. So obviously, this is kind of a wash in my opinion, because we do get other funds from different outside fundings that does not directly go back to the schools if they don't use it. So I'm sure there is a cost in that would cover this. Is that correct? Or how much expended funds last year did we receive, John? I'm sorry?
Second. We don't get reimbursement for this. This is entirely out of our budget. So none of the Board of Ed grants go towards it.
Right, but other funds that the Board of Ed have gotten that come into our funds, our account.
Oh, just generally?
Right.
For instance, we had some reimbursement come in this year. We wouldn't have that off the top of our heads.
You don't have it off the top of your heads. Okay. Well, if you could bring that number too, that would be great, because I think we should look at that in relationship. We look at the increase here, but we also have to look at what has come in that was never used by them. I think that's important. Thank you.
I appreciate Councilor Obrey's concerns, and I do thank those who are here today waiting to speak to us to defend their budgets. In looking ahead, I'm only seeing, I think this is the only day when we would have outside people here. We have board, and then it looks like everything else is town staff, and I assume Mr. Burt will hold his team to attend the budget meetings, but Moderator Eben may wish to concur and recommend that the people from the outside agencies do attend the RTM meetings. I think it'll be beneficial, as Councilor Obrey so eloquently stated. We are going on to any other questions, first-time speakers? Okay, so we are on 10841 VNA School Health, and the amount that has been moved is $1,132,493. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously with 8 counselors. The next item, we're back to Councilor Baumgardner, is 10842. This is also VNA, but this is the health promotion account. Councilor Baumgardner?
I move the amount of $33,375.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Baumgardner, seconded by Parker, in the amount of $33,375. And again, this will be Mr. Burt defending this account.
Yeah, on page 825, you'll see the breakdown. There's basically just 2 series of wellness clinics, or one is the BP and nurse managed wellness clinics that do go to various places. That's 12,960. And the other is health promotion clinics, which is, let's see, yeah, it's 864. And then indigent care for 20,000 for those who can't afford services at these clinics.
So Councilor Bordelon, you were asking about the health promo. Does that answer your question?
It doesn't extend. I remember in the past, if this is the right line, is this one of the ones that used to come into the senior center?
Yes.
So those services weren't happening in the last year, correct?
27. Oh, there's a little more info on page 27 also.
Mm-hmm. So that they didn't have these services last year, right?
I don't remember them.
Not at the senior center. They want to go out to.
No, for the, you're talking for the promo?
The promo. So
yeah, the promo.
Was there any unexpended funds that they had from last year that could be applied to this year?
Well, they just charge us for it though. It's not that they keep the money. They charge us for their costs incurred.
So what did we get charged for last year then? Oh, this is a projected cost incurred? I guess if it wasn't open last year, I'm just curious, how much did we, or how much were we charged?
The airport.
Yeah.
Looks like 29. 29,556.
29,000 was actual in adjusted was 32,708 for 21, and this is up a little bit to 33,375
So they did have services happening at the senior center during
in
COVID?
other places. Yes,
That's like this at the senior center.
it's
They
different
go,
places
you know,
too.
They do home visits.
Home visits also.
Okay.
Groton residents, 24,000 visits.
And you can see on page 25 where it says there's total visits to resident.
Groton residents.
Oh yeah, at the bottom line there, home health care total visits of Groton residents 24,967 to Groton residents.
So the patient's physician can order the visits to the homes. That's the second half of it. So it's not just senior center and other community things. They can send people into people's houses that need the care.
Right.
Okay. And these are services that, like I know with my insurance, if I needed care at home, then that would be something I pay out of my medical insurance, and they do send V&A if you choose to go with that one, or there's another organization. Is this one set up for in-home care for people who can't get it directly funded through their particular insurance? Is that what this provides?
That's what's on page 24.
Yes.
The indigent care and wellness visits are made to residents who have inadequate insurance or no health insurance and are required to provide proof of financial need.
Right. All right. Well, there could be an increase then with COVID. People might need more services as well. So that could explain. Thank you.
All right, I see no other hands, so we will vote on 10842 VNA Health Promo in the amount of $33,375. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Okay, next is Groton Ambulance. This is 10843. Groton Ambulance, and this is, let's see, give me a
I
second.
make a motion to move $105,952 for account number 10843. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Franco. And this is, let's see the page. Give me 1 second.
111. 111.
Thank you. This is your addendum A111. And let's see who is here with us today. I have to look at my list, I'm sorry. No, this is Groton Ambulance. So we have Mr. Konecki.
Yes, I am here.
Hi, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you being here, as you just heard. So you have the floor, sir.
Our biggest change this year was for COVID. We had not only an increase in PPE costs, but a box of gloves that we use on every single call, every routine call, whether it's COVID or not, the price went up 90%. We had a call volume decrease because of the stay-at-home orders, and we still got the 911 calls. And we went there and provided aid to over 1,000 people that ultimately did not have to go to the hospital. And those are calls that we are not reimbursed by. We have continued to have the increased safety measures that have been put in place, and just the cost of doing business. And also at points we had some of the insurance companies were not paying for their transports. So that's mainly where a lot of our deficit came in. Looking forward, the emergency medical field in general has changed. It's just a progressive thing that happens. Before the HIV crisis, EMTs didn't even wear gloves when they did calls. Now it's second nature. Everybody wears gloves. Now after this, everybody's going to be wearing a mask and eye protection. And of course, PPE manufacturers are taking advantage of the increased costs. And that was the main reason for us to ask for an increase. simply because of the decreased income coming in and the increased money that we had to pay out. We have also increased our staffing. We now have 2 ambulances fully staffed, manned, ready to go 24/7 for members and visitors of the town. We have increased our mutual aid. I believe it went up like 81% because we do have those ambulances available. And we've had times where we've had 3, 4, 5 calls. During the COVID main lockdown, we had to eliminate one of those crews. We were able to get one of the PPP loans, and that allowed us to bring that 3rd crew back. And then when everything ramped up, we were prepared for that. So we did take advantage of every federal program that we had available to us, being a nonprofit, and the way our billing works, we didn't qualify for everything, but we did apply for everything.
Mr. Kinnicky, are you ready to receive questions, sir? Did you have more?
No, I am ready, willing, and able.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burt, I understand we have someone from Always Home that needs login information so they can be here for their account, but I don't have the correct email for that. So Ms. Smith is trying to get logged on so she can take care of her budget when it's time. Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Kinnicky. Councilor Franco, you have the floor.
Thank you. So as I read your request, it does state here that you had 4,038 patients, resulting in 1,126 non-billable responses. So I think that's approximately 25% of the people you transported or worked with, you were unable to collect revenue from, which I can't imagine having that in a business. I do think that due to COVID, you were substantially impacted. I had, during COVID, reached out to somebody at the Groton Ambulance on multiple occasions to see how you were doing with your PPEs. And I know that during that time, how hard, absolutely hard it was for you to receive them and what you were going through at that time. As I also work at a dental office, I can tell you that I agree that N95s were hard to get, and sometimes they were absolutely ridiculous with the cost that was incurred to get them. I also received very good information from you regarding, or from a staff member of yours, how to do the testing and where to get a tester to come out to a facility to get for the N95s and to make sure that there was no leaks and to protect our staff members where I work. So I would say that the increase that you're requesting is valid, extremely valid, and I would definitely be supporting it. And I thank you for everything. And I know that you guys have gone through a whole lot this past year. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It has been a roller coaster of changing requirements, and a lot of people don't understand that an N95 is classified as a respirator. It's not just a simple surgical mask or something that you can wear. And OSHA regulates those and has specific guidelines that we must follow. And with the state distribution of N95s, if you have one person wearing a certain style, they have to be fit tested for that style. And we ran into problems where the fit test solution was back ordered, and it seemed to snowball. And luckily we have an excellent staff here, and we were able to, analyze each problem and find solutions. And luckily, knock on wood, our entire staff, despite being in contact with so many COVID patients in the back of an enclosed ambulance with zero airflow just about, we were lucky enough to have one positive case, and we believe that that was not obtained during her work. So whatever we put in place obviously worked, and we're very proud of what we've provided to the community and the way we've kept our employees safe.
Well, thank you so much, because it's been an amazing year for you guys, and the thing is, you're always there, 24/7. You're always there, and I will say that on a personal level, separate from my council duties, I also reached out to one of your staff members late in the evening when I was caring for my father, and I had an issue with an oxygen machine, and I didn't know what to do. And then the response was very quick and was extremely helpful. And you're there, and thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Baumgartner.
Yeah, I too will be supporting this increase, and want to thank Mr. Kanicki and all at Groton Ambulance for your work during these times. Mr. Kanicki, a quick question. Are you able to make use of any of the PPE under the, or held by the town of Groton? I know the town of Groton received $150,000 from in CARES funding to create a stockpile of PPE, and was wondering, and maybe actually this would be better for a better question for the town manager, but Mr. Byrd, is the ambulance able to utilize any of those PPE from our stockpile?
Mr. Burt or Ms. Landry?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to get a hold of Betty Smith. So,
She's here, thank you.
oh, she is, okay.
Yes.
What was the question?
Is Groton Ambulance able to make use of the PPE in the stockpile?
Sure, definitely, yes.
Okay, excellent.
And if they have any special needs, it'd be, I know they're already putting their RFP out, but it'd still be good to know. And Chet, if Mr. Kanicki, if you get a hold of me, I can hook you up with economic development. You can talk about what they're looking at ordering.
We've actually been in contact with Chief Fisaro, who is an emergency management director. We have received shipments from the Office of Emergency Medicine through the state stockpile, and we have enough of certain things. The stockpile that we got at the end was whatever was left over. So we have boxes of extra small gloves that really only fit a slight percentage of our workforce. But we are very grateful for what we did get through the state. They were excellent in providing distribution sites, and unfortunately that was after the beginning of everything, but we are doing okay right now. However, this is not the last pandemic we're ever going to face, unfortunately, and nobody had the forethought to stockpile N95s, and in the beginning a lot of them that we got were expired, and they said to use them as surgical masks. So it's been a very dynamic situation from the very beginning, where we had policies changing on a daily basis with different recommendations coming out. So we've luckily been able to keep up with everything, and our success rate has been phenomenal. And I'm very proud of my staff here for all the hard work and stuff that they have put in. And as for people asking questions or having problems with home medical equipment, I will send my crews out to people's houses, and that won't call. I'm sorry, I have a call coming in. But that won't be a billable call, nor will we be dispatched. It's really just community service that we provide.
We do have a new grant that's not anything to do with the strategic stockpile. So if there's anything you're really needing, they're ordering supplies now. So there might be something we can do for you.
Okay, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Sorry, Counselor Bordelon, I was trying to lower your hand and I hit mute. My apologies.
Thank you for all that you do. And as a person who also works in the medical field, we felt the impact, as Counselor Franco stated, working in dental office, working in the GI field, working in surgical center, as well as the medical practice. Things have started to stabilize now that we kind of know what we're doing as far as like how this is going to impact us long term. But it definitely was a very tough onset. So with that, as John has just stated here, there will be some other help possibly that could come in. Would that help to decrease the amount that you would need if the town was helping you provide more equipment? I'm just looking at the number. I mean, there's no cost to your health, as I can totally support. But looking at the increases exactly, like looking at it as a 50% increase long term. I don't know. I'm looking down the line at the Mystic ambulance, and theirs is a 50%, 100%, double increase as well. I don't know. I'm just curious as to what number could you work with if there was a number with the support coming in. Is there any other grants and things to get gear? What outside, work are you guys doing to obtain that? And then looking at it as a whole. John, what are we currently charging them for rent?
It's very minimal. I forget what it is offhand, but it's
like $1,000 a year or something.
What was that?
Is it like $1,000 a year or something like that?
I don't think it's even that. I'd have to check. I think it may be like a nominal $1 a year type of thing. I'd have to look. Maybe Mr. Kanicki knows.
Right.
It's last year was $1,000. This year it's going up to $2,000.
Oh, that's right.
So it's double.
Yes.
For the year. Okay. And do we provide any cost for the Mystic ambulance for their housing unit where they own their building? We don't provide any like decrease in that, right?
Ask again, please.
The Mystic ambulance, we do not own that building, so we do not.
No, we do own the building.
At the
not Mystic River. Yes, Groton, we do, not Mystic River.
Right, so we don't give them any other cost deferent for that. They pay their own, correct?
Right. I mean, they use the money, whatever they need it for.
Yeah, so I'm in full support. I think it's, obviously a needed agency. I do think making a 100% increase is a bit much at this time, because then where does this number come next year? I do think there's other stuff we do provide. I would like to move a number of 80,000. I think it's a raise. I think it's an increase, but it's not the full amount. I think it's.
Councilor Bordelon, we need a second, please. Councilor Bordelon is moving for 10843. Say again the amount, please.
80,000.
$80,000. Is there a second for Councilor Bordelon's motion? There is no second.
Okay. Well, I support obviously an increase. I just didn't think that number is a bit high, considering there's things leveling out, and we already defer the costs as a nominal donation for rent. So I think there's we're already decreasing what could be a $20,000 to $30,000 fee for rent in our town, which we as a nonprofit agency are now supporting that, which I think is great. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Thank you.
If I could just answer to the building aspect of it, we are responsible for all the maintenance of the building, including the furnace that it was originally installed in 1970, all the drains that were installed in 1970. So the upkeep of the building is a significant expense to us also. I had spoken with the town manager about trying to do a rent to own type thing, because we're pretty much maintaining the entire building now. I don't believe last year, and town manager, if you could correct me, I don't think there was any money put in for the maintenance of the building. And this is a building that requires a lot of upkeep because we do have people here 24/7, and it's starting to be deteriorating. They did put a new parking lot in last year as capital improvement, which was great, but we upgraded all the air conditioning system, the heating system, the pretty much everything. And we worked with the town, and they did some painting and some general maintenance, but the majority of everything that does happen to this building is our responsibility under the lease. So yes, from a business standpoint, $20,000 to $30,000 would be a reasonable rent. But with that $20,000 or $30,000, you're going to be expected to maintain all these systems. And in the long run, I think it would be actually less cost effective for the town to do that. And they do have tank removal, which is coming up in the next few years. And that can be extremely pricey. So that's a requirement. So it's not just as easy as saying, well, we give you the rent for that cheap. So it's a lot more than that.
Mr. Burt, did you wish to respond at all before we go to other counselors?
No, I mean, they do have to do quite a bit of work. We've put money into the roof and other things, so it's a good partnership. But I think the agreement lays out the responsibilities of each in detail, of each agency.
Thank you. Counselor Aubrey?
No,
Counselor Aubrey, I thought you had your hand up. I apologize.
that's okay.
Any other counselors wish to speak first time before we go to second time speakers? Counselor Franco, you have the floor.
Thank you. As I've already spoken in favor, I would like to add, we have other nonprofits that do business in Groton that help our community, and we lease property to them for $1 a year, and under a contract as well. So we've actually asked the ambulance to pay more than many other nonprofits that do business for the sake of our community. And while, yes, they do collect revenue via insurance and people they do business with, there are many in our community that they provide a service that cannot pay. And I think the amount that they're asking is very small compared to the services that they give to the people in our community, in which they have to provide the service regardless of your ability to pay. So I can understand trying to be financially tight with the money on this, but I think after coming off a COVID year, that the money allocated should go forward, and we should do it happily, I believe. Thank you.
Any other first time speakers before we go to second time speakers? Counselor Heed?
Thanks. I'll just voice my support for this increase this year, given the pandemic and that you've qualified it. It's not just a random increase. So I can appreciate the numbers that you've put into your budget. That said, and I hope this isn't heartless, but I do hope that next year's numbers come down. So let's see how that goes. Thank you so much.
Any other first time speakers before we go to second time speakers? Counselor Baumgartner for your second.
Thank you. I think Councilor Franco made a lot of important points. And I would add that EMS for many communities throughout our state, and even you look at New London, for example, is a function of town government or city government there. And so, those are EMS services are in some cases are, provided directly by taxpayers, and here they are not. So I would say we most certainly get bang for our buck, and I would argue that maybe we actually currently under invest despite the small increase we'll be given this year. Thank you.
Any other first-time speakers before you go to second-time speaker? Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor.
Thank you. Like I said, I was in support of an increase. I didn't know that I wanted it to necessarily double, but I can align my remarks with Councilor Heed in the sense that this was a very different year, and we'll see what next year holds. I just would like to see the number maybe come back down some, obviously, with a possible increase. And yes, I do agree the building needs some repairs, but some of the agreements and negotiations were done way before my involvement in government. And so there are some areas that I feel do need fixing. And if the building needs that much repair, I do feel it's the town's responsibility. But I do think there is a cost savings in some aspects, and it's a good partnership, but it is important to keep in mind, because if you own the building, you'd be doing the repairs and paying a lease or mortgage or buy it outright. So it's things that we can look at over time. I know this is something that I had brought up before, and the number did come up from the 1,000 to the 2,000, but I just think it's good business. And then there might be other nonprofits that pay $1. I guess it depends on what the situation is, but I think it's important to fund something, so I would support the number in the end, but hope to see what this number would look like next year, maybe a decrease. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burt?
I just want to mention on the agreement, I know it's before Councilor Bordelon's time, but the majority of the council was here for the end of 18, where they kind of gave me guidance on what they wanted out of the agreement, and it was approved right at the end of 18.
Thank you. All right, we will vote on 10843 in the amount of $105,952. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Okay, give me 1 second to get to where we're going, people. Okay, we are going on to the next account. This is 10845. This is service agencies. And we've been asked to move this as one number. And then we will have a chance to speak to the people who are here if we have questions. And if we choose to amend at that point, we can amend. But Mr. Burt and Director Landry have asked us to move one number on this. So Councilor Franco, we are on 10845, please.
I move account 10845 in the amount of $75,895.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Franco and seconded by Parker. All right, and the detail on this begins on page A28.
Do you want me to give I usually give my philosophy where I
Right.
put numbers. Do you want that?
It just starts with the overview, and then each individual one is following along in line after that. So if you're looking for something, go to A28 and start there and then move forward. Mr. Burt.
What I did this year is if your request was for the same amount you just received in the current year, I kept it at that, so no reduction, kept it right at what they requested. If you're requesting more than you were receiving this year, I tried to bump it up some just to make some progress. And then just to mention, we did not receive a request from the symphony. And I've heard, I can't guarantee this, but I've heard they didn't have a chance to spend their money from the current year. So they have the funds left, but I was told that, but I don't know that for a fact.
And I just wanted to acknowledge who we have here. So we have, give me 1 second to look at the list. We have quite a few people here from the service agency. So hold on 1 second. Pam Kinder from UCFS, Steve Elsey from Homeless Hospitality. Let me see, just switch it to attendees. I'm looking to see who else is with us. Susan Clarice is here. Chris Keppel, I believe, is here. Oh, that's not yet. Okay. So if people are here and we have questions, please just speak up and note your presence if I missed you, and I apologize if I missed you and you've been so patient in waiting to speak. Councilor Franco, do you have comments on line item 10845?
I do. This is usually a item we will spend hours and hours going over, sometimes only to just change it by a very small dollar amount. I believe last year we passed a number and we increased it a bit, which I do see that there's an increase from 2021. And we allowed the town manager, Mr. Burt, to actually allocate the money because we knew we could spend hours on this one. I feel comfortable with the amount that Mr. Burt has put forward in the town budget for $75,895. And I would like it for us to just pass this number. And because we all have items in here that we are, very fond of, and we always want to do more to help people. But I think he has put forward a good number. And I would encourage fellow councilors to move forward with. Thank you.
And I just wanted to note, we have Margaret Suslov from Safe Futures and Amy Perry from the Heritage Park. So thank you so much. I do have questions that I will be asking, but I will yield. I see Councilor Melendez has his hand up. Councilor Melendez?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to make a motion for cost center 10845 in the amount of 85,821, and that is just the full requested amount. Oh, let's wait for a second.
Second, Bordelon.
Wait 1 second, please. I need the number repeated, please. I was muted. So
Okay.
Melendez is moving for 10845.
85,821.
Is there a second?
Second, Bordelon.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Bordelon. Councilor Melendez, you have the floor to defend your motion.
That is just the full requested amount. I think similar to the Groton ambulance, a lot of these agencies probably had extra expenses and costs that are probably not going to happen going forward, but we're just, special to this year. So I think for 1 year, if the requested amount is just $10,000 more, we can go with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melendez. I do have a question about an item that we talked about in detail last year, and I'm just hoping somebody can clarify. Oh, I forgot. Yes, Betty Smith is also here from Always Home. We have wonderful homeless organizations that work for Groton residents, New London Homeless Hospitality and Always Home both. So thank you so much for being here and listening to our discussion. I have a question regarding United Community and Family Services and Safe Futures. So when I'm looking on the description, right, for, oh, that's the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing. I apologize. I want to look at Sexual Assault Crisis Center of Eastern Connecticut versus Safe Futures. So from what I'm reading on page A29, it says that this is located in Willimantic and it duplicates the services available to Groton residents via New London-based Safe Futures, right? Rather than making referrals to this organization in Willimantic, referrals are made directly to Safe Futures by Groton Human Services and the town police department. So my initial question is, well, then why are we funding an organization that we're not referring to? And then when I looked further at the in-depth description for the Sexual Assault Crisis Center, it seems to indicate that other entities are referring Groton residents to the facility in Willimantic rather than the facility in New London. And I wasn't sure why, because Safe Futures indicates if there is an issue with the victim feeling not safe, that they can actually move them to another town if they need to get them away. So if somebody, I'm not sure if Mr. Burt, you can clarify that, or if you want me to go to, I'm not sure if anybody is here from Sexual Assault Crisis Center.
I don't have the details, unfortunately.
from Safe Futures. Do you know anything about that, or could you help me to understand better why someone would be recommended there rather than to your facility, Ms. Sussloff?
Yes, hello. Thank you. And thank you for your support. Well, we deal with people who are, who have domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and trafficking, but within the confines of an intimate partner relationship. So people can be sexually assaulted outside of that type of relationship, and that's where Connecticut sexual assault would come in. We do work with them. We are partners with them in many ways, but they are really the expert in the sexual assault outside an intimate partner relationship. When we say say someone contacts us in an intimate partner relationship abuse situation and they need to leave that situation, but it's, for whatever reasons, it's not safe for them to come to our confidentially located shelter, which is within New London County. When that shelter is full at capacity, we do use safe hotels in the area. Then we move them through we're part of Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. It's a coalition. There's 18 member agencies, so we move them to another member agency in Connecticut. Although with this past year with COVID, people can imagine, especially when there was the shutdown in the state, we could not move people. So even if it was very unsafe for them to be in the area, we sort of had to keep them in the area. Again, we do use hotels. Unless it was really a dire situation, then we actually move some people out of state. So thank you
so much for clarifying. I appreciate that now, and I can understand the distinction and why we are using both facilities. So I can definitely support Councilor Melendez's amended motion. Ms. Barry is here from the Arts Council. Representative Aubry, and then Bordelon.
Sorry, I can't shut that phone off. If you remember, there was a young woman that came and talked to us about the Assault Crisis Center in Eastern Connecticut, and she primarily worked with children. And I had wanted to raise the amount that we give her, because it's a very small group doing a very big job. So I'm in favor of the larger amount, but I'd like to see some of it go to the Sexual Crisis Center. The other question I had was totally other end. The symphony, did we not give them any money?
They did not ask for any money this year. My understanding is because of the pandemic, they weren't able to spend the money they had this year. But they did not. We sent them a letter asking. We sent a letter to each of them, to make their request. They just did not respond.
Okay, I'd like to keep a small amount in there so that they don't get forgotten in the next year. I don't know if that's possible or not. I'll take the advice of the mayor and the manager, but I don't want them to fall by the wayside. I think it's a very important group. We have very little culture in Groton.
It can certainly be done, but we will send a letter out, to them again next year too. Either way.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second before you do anything, Councilor Aubry. Councilor Heed's internet went out and he doesn't know where we are. So where we are right now is that nothing has passed for 10845. The number on the floor right now is Councilor Melendez's motion for $85,821. So Councilor Aubry, if you wished to make an amended motion, you are welcome to at this time. Or as you said, as Mr. Burt said, they will be welcome to submit again next year if they so desire.
I'd like to put an amended motion on the floor. I'd like to put on a number of $88,821. That would be.
Second? We need a second before we discuss. Is there a second for that number?
Oh, so much for that.
Second. I will second that for discussion purposes.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Aubry, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you remember when they came and talked with us about the fact that this sexual assault crisis center was the only one that they have to call when there's children. And unfortunately, that need does not go down, it goes up. So I'd like very much to be able to help them just a little bit more. I don't think it's a great deal in all that we're doing, but it's very, very important. If you had a child that had a problem like that, you'd certainly want somebody that has the appropriate knowledge and care to be able to help them. And the other thing is, I'd like to just add $1,000 for the symphony to just get them going for the coming year, the year we're in, because I think they'll be starting up in September. So if anybody's in agreement, I would appreciate your help.
I'm just looking for clarification. Perhaps the other counselors, perhaps I'm the only one that misunderstood. So the 88,000, the increase of $3,000, your goal is to do what with the increased money, Counselor Aubry?
2,000 Sexual Assault Crisis Center and 1,000 for the symphony.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, Counselors Bordelon and then Heed, please.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Looking at the ARC of New London County, we see the adjusted FYE 2020 numbers, which is what was adjusted after. Do we know, could the Midtown manager tell me what they requested in 2021 ARC of New London County?
Give me a moment, I can look that up.
Because I've spoken to a lot of different folks with families that have disabilities and with school closure due to COVID. Some families have older family members that have surpassed the ability to go to regular public school beyond the age. I think they go up to age 21 with certain disabilities, and then they rely on these outside services. And then a lot of these programs closed, and people weren't able to work. I mean, children and adults with disabilities need 24-hour care. And I just feel like that number's low for ARC of New London County. They are an outside resource.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I do have your information when you're ready.
Go ahead.
For 20, they didn't request anything. For 21, they requested 2,000.
Yeah.
And then this year they requested 1,500. And I typically just, my part of it, I just rely on them to know what their needs are.
Right. And then, so we just kind of went off of what we would adjusted. So anyway, I think ARC of New London County needs a little bit more support, in my opinion. I think all these agencies need more support. I know it's hard. John, while you have those numbers up, do you know what the adjusted, the request for SCAD was as well in 2021?
Yes, it was 5,000.
Right. Again, so the need, and naturally when the agencies come back based on what we cut them the year prior, which I wasn't very happy with, then they have obviously going to come back much lower because the numbers were cut. So can you just give us all the numbers that were requested in 2021, please, since you have that open, if we can go straight down?
Three numbers.
The original.
Yeah. Just to mention, there are 3 motions on the floor, so no other motions can be made until something's handled.
That's fine. I still would like those numbers though. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Burt, is the numbers that Councilor Bordelon is looking for on page 31 in our book?
I'm on page 179, just looking, and it just has the adjusted number, but I would just like the requested number just.
So it's, if you go to A31, I think that's what you're looking for. I could be wrong. I might be misunderstanding. Mr. Burt, is that where you were going to direct Councilor Bordelon, A31?
No, that's the, she was looking at the 20 too, the 20 request, or 21 requested. Yeah.
You're looking for prior year rather than the request from this year, Councilor Bordelon?
Correct, because in that year they cut the funds a lot. So we have a couple of the numbers. If you could just tell me the New London Homeless and Hospitality number that they requested in 2021.
Here, please. Oh, it's they requested 7,250.
72.
Received 7,125.
7,250. Yep. And then we have SCAD was 5,000. Safe Future requested how much?
9,600.
9,600. ARC requested 2,000. Connecticut Legal Services, that's usually a flat number always.
Yeah, 7,260.
Yep. And United Community Family Services, how much did they request?
4,000.
4,000. Okay. And then Always Home,
4750.
4,750. Sexual assault and crisis, they requested
1100.
1,100. Okay. And then Meals on Wheels,
24,634.
Children First.
3,000.
Okay. And then Thames, that stays the same.
Yeah, that stays flat. Yep.
Culture. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this is always a tough topic for me. I'm near and dear to outside services because we're all a day away from possibly ever needing these or being impacted these directly by, let it be a loved one, family member, or ourselves, as we've seen people being laid off. So looking at SCAD, they requested 5,000 and we adjusted them down last year to 37,500, and this year they requested 4,000. SCAD right now, the numbers of people needing support right now with addiction and especially from lack of loss of job and from the pandemic, behavioral health is up immensely. If you could, working in the GI office, I'm seeing the amount of cirrhosis to the liver and liver problems from people excessively drinking, from stress, from loss of job, emotional and social issues. I'm telling you, the homeless and hospitality across the board, they came in and requested 7256. We should give them that this year, not the 7125. Looking at the 5,000 for SCAD, I would support that. I mean, we don't have a lot of programs that, can support these folks. And in response to the outside agency in Willimantic, we have to keep in mind that with COVID, you can only have so many people per square feet in areas. And a lot of these places max out. And then you don't want to be on the receiving end when the place in New London that we supported doesn't have a bed for you. They're going to contact and refer you somewhere else. So I feel that this number could even come up. I feel looking at SCAD alone, ARC of New London County, and behavioral services, definitely Meals on Wheels, I think that 29, I just think that we could do a little bit more. And I mean, if we're willing to double the ambulance by from $52,000 to $105,000 because of COVID, and they're saying the need is here also. This outside agency, this is one of the smallest parts of our budget, but directly impacts everybody. I'd like to move another number.
Councilor Bordelon, you cannot. We have the main and two amended motions on the floor.
Okay, so I think we can do more. I would like to throw a number on the floor after, if I get a chance. But I think if we look at the year prior where we cut, or I should say other people had cut and we weren't in agreement, the need, we're just now bottoming, but we never met the need prior. And now we're just there is a need and we need to take that seriously. And this is, in the big scheme of things, it's a small fraction of taxpayers' dollars, but it impacts so many. Thank you.
So just keeping in mind the numbers we will be voting first. I understand there are councilors' hands up. I just want to clarify for people. We have two numbers that are above what the manager and the group has recommended. Councilor Melendez's motion is meeting exactly what the request for. Councilor Aubry's motion goes above and beyond that. So the numbers we will be voting first are well above what the manager and his committee came up with. So we have Councilor Heed next. You're muted, Councilor Heed.
Yeah, thank you. I've switched to my phone because the computer is acting up, I think. I don't know how to lower my hand, in other words, on this. So that being said, usually I would say, we should manage these accounts pretty tight, and I would support the 75,000. But I think that given this year in particular, I'd be okay supporting the 85,000 because that's what they requested. But I'd be cautious going over their requested number, and that includes the symphony. I mean, if they didn't ask us for help, I think we just need to consider taking out our own checkbooks and writing a check. To be honest, to put it bluntly. I support all of them and I would like to give them more, but I'm cautious to spend other people's money But that being said, I'll be supporting Councilor Melendez's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Baumgartner, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to note just a quick fun fact. Councilor Bordelon brought up ARC, and I know our council has been very focused on improving environmental quality here in Groton, and has taken a particular interest in the legislature's efforts to modernize the bottle bill. And the ARC has a redemption center up in Woodstock. It's starting to become a little bit outdated, but they actually take redeem the bottles, cans and bottles at a facility up in Woodstock. Many individuals in the IDD who have intellectual or developmental disabilities work at this facility. It provides a lot of dignity to to their life, to have a job that they can go to, and obviously that work is so important to taking plastics off of our roads and streets and sidewalks. And would just want to remind residents that if they do have any cans or bottles, that they can I believe they can bring them to ARC's facility in Groton, where they can be transported up to their Woodstock facility. And hopefully after this year, soon you can bring nips.
Councilor Heed, you have a second time? Or was that a not knowing how to lower your hand?
Oh, sorry. I did actually. I had two questions, and I was disoriented a little bit from the internet issue. So the second question, I know that there's some federal funding coming in that will be able to direct to different uses, pandemic relief. And I wanted to ask Mr. Byrd if any of these agencies qualified for any of that funding, and if they were being considered at this point.
Well, right now we don't have any instructions on what we can spend the money on. That won't come until late April. And obviously you guys could create a program that they'd be eligible for. There would be, of course, an application process, but I can say that the ideas that are out there right now are way beyond what we have funding for. So just everyone should keep that in mind.
Mr. Thoreau, that is noted in Councilor Melendez's motion. Councilor Melendez's motion is the actual requested amounts, is what he put on the floor as the first amended motion, excuse me. Any first time speakers before we go back to second time speakers? Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. I just had a couple things for clarification purposes. Councilor Obrey's number, which I think is wonderful, but that hers is slotted to go, the increased amount of that 3,000 is slotted for the particular ones that she identified, correct? Only. I just wanted clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what she stated.
Okay. Again, I think it's just really important to support these outside agencies more than ever. The need is there. I can't stress it enough. It's a huge part. I mean, we have 10,000 going to our Heritage Park for people to use the nice boat to go across the river. And that's a great funding, and I'm all for it, but we need to keep in mind and keep it in perspective in the need, as we look at things, as other things that are coming down and other increases that people are asking for. These are the ones that directly impact the folks in our community that need them. And they stem from a lot of things that they are actually all linked in risk together. When you look at homeless, you're dealing with SCAD, you're dealing with drug addiction, you're dealing with mental health, and mental health is dealing with homelessness. It really is. These are all kind of one and the same. When you look at sex trafficking and young adults, there's usually drug addiction on those folks as well, and abuse. So you're looking at the Safe Futures, you're looking at mental health as well. And these agencies have to collaborate and draw resources together. So I know that we might have a few favorites, but if we can look at them as one umbrella, people are stressed out and not able to care for themselves, and they need support. And people who never needed services before are needing them now more than ever. Thank you.
Any first time speakers before we go to second time speakers? Counselor Franco, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the town manager. I'm looking at the items in this section as a whole, you know, of what you put into your manager's budget. And you had supported the Groton ambulance increase and the Mystic ambulance increase, and then you supported a small increase on these service agencies. So my question is, what is the impact of the small increase on this? And what was what were you thinking on why was there a small increase instead of the asking price?
That we have over an $8 million increase, trying to do what I can to keep things down, but while trying to help agencies more.
Thank you. And did you see on the ambulance that there was an actual need for that increase, and compared to maybe the outside agencies might
I thought it was at least worth discussing that. I thought it was at least worth discussing that number, so I kept that number in there.
Okay. And are there any other kind of services that we provide locally that are similar or to these that we're discussing now that are in this list of agencies? So if there was a sexual assault issue and the police were involved, the person would go to the hospital, I would assume, and would they call in the Sexual Assault Crisis Center? Is that how, something of that nature?
Yeah, whatever the relevant agency is would be called in, yes. I don't believe we have any duplicative services.
Are there any other services that the hospital provides that you would know of?
Not that I know of.
Right. Because I personally would love to fund these with hundreds of thousands of dollars. I truly would. But as we have gone in our previous budget meetings, we have literally spent hours on this, hours and hours, because we all have things that we want to. I mean, nobody wants to say no to any of them, really, I don't think. I think we just need to come to a number and try and just pass it. That's how because honestly, it's an extremely difficult account. It always has been, because this is things that we want to help people. So it's very difficult, but thank you, Mr. Burt, for your answers.
All right, the way we will vote is the last motion first. So the second amended figure is Councilor Aubry's figure of $88,821. And I would ask you to raise your hand and keep your hand up, please, so I can get the votes and Ms. Watchers can also get the votes. So all those in favor of Councilor Aubry's number of $88,821, please raise your hand and keep your hand up till I call your name. Councilor Baumgardner, Melendez, Aubry. Those opposed, raise your hand, please. Let's let Melendez and Baumgardner put their hands down so I don't get confused. So those opposed to this number are Heed, Bordelon, Granatowski. Those abstaining, Parker and Franco are abstaining. So that motion fails, 3 in favor, 3 opposed, 2 abstentions. That puts us to the first amended figure of 85,000.
Another number on the floor, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Bordelon?
Yep.
Second amended figure, go ahead.
I like, the only reason I did not vote for Councilor Aubry's figure is because I want to increase those, but I want to help others as well. And so I'd like to look at this number and move money into some of the areas where year after year they've been cut a little bit, and so the asking number seems to be going down.
Do you have a number you'd like to move, and then I can yield the floor to you.
I'm getting there. I'm coming up with my number. Thank you. So I would like to move 90,000.
Is there a second for 90,000? There is no second. We go to the first amended figure, which is Councilor Melendez's figure of $85,821. And again, I will ask that you raise your hands, please, and keep your hands up until I have a chance to call your name. All those in favor of $85,821, please raise your hand. Baumgardner, Melendez, Aubrey, Bordelon, Heed, Franco, Parker, Granatowski, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any opposed? 0. Any abstentions? 0. That motion passes unanimously. $85,821 for account 10845. Are we good with that in finance? Did you catch it okay?
We do have that, yes.
Thank you. Thank you all who were here representing your service agency and your arts agency. We appreciate you coming out to speak with us. It is very helpful. We do like having you here.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
All right, we are on to cost center 7, which is marine sewage disposal. 10847. And this is Councilor Heed.
Sorry, which page is this one on?
This is 178 is where the list of numbers are. So we're on 10847 marine sewage disposal.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, my microphone is on. Excellent. So I would like to make a motion for $19,980.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Heed and seconded by Franco for $19,980. And if you'd like the detail on this, this is on page A110. It was a letter from Mr. Chappell, and I believe Mr. Chappell, I apologize if I'm not saying it correctly. He is with us today. Any questions on this particular account? Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. I remember you coming and doing a presentation and talking about this when I was on the RTM many years ago, it feels like. And I know this is a joint fund, right? That you also get funding from Stonington, is that correct?
Correct.
What is their numbers looking like? What are you requesting this year from them?
We requested the same amount. You know, obviously you never know from time to time what you're going to get from them. Last year they gave us, I think it was $10,000. We requested 19, they gave us 10.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll continue, but I don't know.
And then I know it was asked, and looking at boats per the municipalities, meaning Stonington and Groton, it seems some were saying that possibly there were more boat usage on the Stonington side than the Groton side, yet we were paying more. Is that correct still?
That is incorrect. There's more on the Groton side, because you have to remember, we're not only doing the Mystic River, but we also do the Thames River too.
Okay. And do you apply for any outside grants from the state for this, you know, outdoor recreation usage and, you know, definitely because it's a sewage waste removal?
No. So because it's a federal grant, the money is actually federally funded, and then it's just distributed by the state, distributed by the state. So because it's already federal money, it's limited as to what other grants you can get. But no, there is no other funding available.
And do you think there might be a decrease this year in usage since this number is flat? Do you think it's?
No. So I've worked really hard to try to keep the number where it's at. The town of Groton has been supporting this. Before I took it over in 2008, the town of Groton started supporting it, and at that point it was 20. They requested a 25,000, and it's been this 19,000 for since 2008. Last year. So in previous years, we've taken around 190,000 gallons of sewage. Last year, we took 246,000 gallons of sewage from Mystic. The number has gone up of what we take dramatically, and we've kept our number flat. I will say though that due to the cost of minimum wage going up, I'm just preparing hopefully for next year. You know, we're going to probably put in for an increase because of minimum wage going up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands, we will vote on 10847 in the amount of $19,980. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Hopefully that means noon and it's just a drill.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Okay. We are on to 10848 Mystic River Ambulance. And this will be Counselor Aubry, please. You're muted, Counselor Aubry.
I'm sorry, I was writing something. What page are we on?
We are on page 178 and we are on item 10848 Mystic River Ambulance.
I move a figure for account 10847 of 19,900.
I'm sorry, we just voted that one. We are.
I'm sorry, yeah.
It's okay. 10848.
Okay, I missed that up, and I will move a number of 50,000, please.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Aubry and seconded by Franco for $50,000 for 10848. And let's see, let me see who's here. Mr. Gilman, I believe, is here, correct? Yes. Mr. Gilman, did you want to say anything to the council before we deliberate?
Yes, I just want to echo what, well, first, I'm a full-time Town of Groton employee. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I just want to echo what President Kanicki said from Groton Ambulance at the outset of COVID, that we had a precipitous drop in our call volume so much that we had to lay off the second crew until we got the PPP loan, which we brought him back. Our call volume has since risen to pre-COVID levels, finally. We've spent around $12,000 in PPE, and from the state of Connecticut, we got like $22,000. And this has totally changed the way we do business.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. And this is on, the request is on A16, it begins on A116, if anybody needed to look at anything. Councilor Franco and then Bordelon.
I would like to once again support the ambulance and thank them for everything they've had to deal with over the past year. It has been a crazy year, and as it was also mentioned previously, if there are PPE needs, the town does have a fund. This is not state related, that if you do have some needs, that maybe you should speak to the town manager as orders are being placed, as we've received money to help with those items. I do know things have stabilized a bit now compared to when it was really hard to find those N95s, and but I know it has been an absolute crazy year, and I would like to thank you for all that you've done for our community.
Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Just like the Groton ambulance, I'm in full support. I understand that, you know, the services that you guys provide is very important and it's a need-based. It's basically, 100% increase. So I think it's reasonable to support it this year, but I'm curious to see where that will be next year in funding once we plan for the future and start to allocate the funds necessary to move forward. But I could support this number this year and looking beyond to see where this will end. Thank you.
Okay, we asked for the same amount of money from the town of Stonington, the $50,000. And what they did was they cut us back to what we received last year from them, which was $38,500. And to make up the difference, they used money from the CARES Act.
Yeah, that's something that would be interesting to talk about from ours. I know we're going to be getting allocated some funds here, and there might be a way that we can offset some of this. John, are you available to that money and that meeting we were talking about that we sit in every month? Is
the long-term recovery committee.
I would think that we could not burden the taxpayers and use maybe funds from that. Is that possible?
Until the guidance comes out, I can't say for sure. And then the town will have to decide which programs they want to run and which ones we have staffings to run. So
Right.
it'll be a while before we know anything.
But this would be a great example of like two accounts that are directly impacted by COVID, as well as outside agencies that, a small fraction of that funding could support, and it would seem as like it would offset. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Thanks. And I also, following Councillor Bordelon, I think, I'm going to support this number. There's no question on that. But, when I look at the letter that you presented, it looks like you've spent just $12,500 for PPE, but you've gotten $20,000 back from the federal government for it. So is it all just staffing that this money is going to go to?
We didn't get $20,000 directly from the State Department of Health. We got $20,000 of PPE that we would have had to go on out and buy. Mm-hmm. So I put a spending freeze on for the past year, and we've been taking money out because what we bill and what we get back are two different things. And with the precipitous drop in call volume, I would say like 60% of our call volume dropped off for a couple months. So that was revenue that we were not taking in.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
I would just encourage Mr. Gilman to just stay in touch and stay aware of what the town is doing as soon as we get guidance. And then I'm sure Mr. Burt will be reaching out to the people on the front line that have been working in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm sure if there's opportunity that Mr. Burt will make resources available to you as well as the other frontline people. Any other first-time speakers before we go to second-time speakers? Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor for the second time.
Thank you. I had a question, John, Town Manager. If we get guidance on this before it goes to the RTM, at that point at the RTM, could they then choose to allocate this at last year's numbers, and then we decide to use that money if it's applicable and approved based on the guidance that we have to move that money in to fund it at that level, but it wouldn't be definitely something that would be part of our grand number. Is that possible?
Possible, but I don't think the timing will work out, just because not only do we have to shape the whole programs, the application process after we get notice at the end of April of what the parameters are. I mean, it's possible, but I can't say whether it'll be done by then. I think it's unlikely, but possibly.
Okay. And so once we do get the guidance, could the money then be reallocated to bring, let's say, the final number down at the end? Even though it was voted on, we could choose to move the funds from the state to pay these areas that we had funded. Is that correct? Or
can I jump in here? I think, Councilor Bordelon, I think Finance Director Landry, if you're still there, We have to appropriate the number anyhow, and
Right.
then the source of the funding, it would simply just not come out of general fund then.
Correct. That is correct.
It would be fed through. So we still, if we want them to have the money to continue doing their job, we still need to appropriate this money. Then the source may change if the standards from the federal government
Right.
are so appropriate. Thank you.
And then my last thing to the Mystic Ambulance, what are your operational costs as far as like you guys have a rent or do you own your building?
We own our building, and I think as of this month, we have about 9 3/4 years left on the mortgage.
Nice. And your overhead out per month for that mortgage is, I mean, if you're able to share, so that's part of your operation cost. So you maintain your building and you pay monthly mortgage and all the repair.
Yep.
Okay. And so that does take in account too, because looking at this, I mean, you guys do a huge service as well, and you do have a lot of operation costs. So, thank you.
Any other first-time speakers before we go to second-time speaker? Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the funding aspect of it with Mr. Burt. So after it comes back to from the RTM and we decide what we want to apply fund balance towards or things of that nature, or what we're going to use other funding to help assist before we set the mill rate, is that a possibility of when we can apply it?
Once the RTM passes the budget.
Once the RTM passes the budget, it's done other than determining use of fund balance and mill rate.
So you can't say we're going to apply these grants towards it.
No, but we could apply them anyhow. It just reduces the amount coming out of general fund if we had those funds.
At that point, and then we set the mill rate after?
Well, no, the budget stays the same. You can't adjust it based on other grant funds at that point.
Set the budget of the amount we want to spend.
Yeah.
Well, how we apply and set the mill rate is what I'm asking.
No, because the mill rate has to be set with what's the existing budget and use of fund balance. The grant won't come into play in that. You can't adjust it at that point.
How do you think Stonington might be doing that?
Right, that's a good question.
They're using a different funding, CARES funding versus ARP funding. So instead of, we already allocated ours. So basically we would just reimburse ourselves. If we have, remember how we've been getting reimbursements for general costs? We funded them the same. So it's not like we suddenly would come in and adjust our budget. You can adjust your budget mid-year if you go through the process, but other than that, it's a totally different kind of funding. It's just gonna come back to us if we decide to do the program, it'll just offset our costs, just like almost like the CARES Act did. Yeah, it's just determining what we want to do with the dollars that come in. But it just doesn't change the budget till it comes in. Once the council decides, once we know the amount of the grant for the ARP, the council will decide what programs they want to do. We'll be working on the application process, all that, but it'll go to the RTM with your plan. They'll accept the grant. And then if you guys choose to do a reimbursement program, well, either a direct allocation or a reimbursement program, that's the time you'll determine it.
All right, so our CARES Act is already spent, and this is the different funding. It cannot be applied. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Okay, Councilor Bordelon, you've spoken twice already, and the rules are twice for each item unless 6 councilors agree to have a third round. Are there 6 councilors who want to have a third round on this item? Okay. Any other first-time speakers? All right, so then we are voting on 10848 Mystic River Ambulance in the amount of $50,000. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Thank you, Mr. Gilman.
You're welcome.
Have a good day, sir. We are on to 10849 Mystic Noank Library. And this will be Counselor Bordelon. This is on page A123 if you want the detail. Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. Looking here, so make a motion for 10849 Mystic Noank Library and the amount of 115,000. I so move.
Second, Heed.
Moved by Bordelon and seconded by Heed. And again, this is, let me just see the page number I told you 2 seconds ago, A123. I believe Mr. Keppel, are you here for the Mystic Noank Library, sir?
Yes, Mayor, I am here. Thanks for.
Thank you. Do counselors have questions for Mr. Keppel? Give me 1 second. I have to record the number that we're working on for my records, 10849. Counselor Bordelon, you have the floor. And then Counselor Overy.
Thank you for coming for this account. I think a library obviously is very important more than ever. We need these services in the midst of COVID. Probably hear that saying over and over for a lot of these items. Where do you guys stand as far as, I know that you guys have usually a pretty healthy funding. You had some contributions or donations from people in the community that have donated large sums. Where is your balance currently? Or how are you guys doing?
Thank you for asking, Counselor. We did see some decreased revenue last year from inability to have our annual fair and our annual fundraising event, but we have been able to manage that through the generosity of private donors and foundations. Just a small, and I'm sure the counselors are all aware of this, but in 2015-16 budget season, our funding was reduced from 188,000, a 40% reduction. So the combination of the support we receive from Stonington and Groton represents about 30% of our operating budget. And I think it's important to note that we are really the only public and freely accessible municipal building in Mystic, period. It's the only place you can go in and get support in finding out information, working on your taxes, getting free access to the internet, whether that's inside the library or outside, as we frequently see people sitting outside in all kinds of weather to use that free internet access. So we are sustaining and providing growing services and have been very innovative in this past year. And Chris Bradley, the executive director, was supposed to be here today. She came down with an illness this morning. So I'm the director of development and just here to act as a substitute for her. So I hope I can answer whatever questions you may have.
So I guess my question was, I know in years past when I've asked, you talk about the Stonington funds and you talk about what comes from Groton, and then you guys have your own asset that you pull from, right? Where you take funds to offset whatever cost is not covered, correct?
That is correct. We do have an endowment and we have several endowed funds that do support different aspects of our work, whether it's program or purchasing books or supporting technology.
And where does your current endowment stand? I know in years past the number was, have you had to draw into that more, or where does it stand as of today?
I'm not sure. I can't give you an accurate number on the full amount of the endowment, unfortunately, at this moment. I just don't have that in front of me. I do have some budget numbers from this year, if you'd like to.
I guess, or how much do you pull out of the endowment per year to sustain your cost? I guess maybe that would be a better question.
I'm afraid that I also cannot answer that question. So I can tell you that our total operating expenses for this past year were $782,000. and that we received 115,000 from Groton and 111,000 from Stonington as a portion of paying for that overhead.
And so the rest of that came out of the endowment and fundraising, I guess I would assume.
The rest of it comes from, and I think the majority of it comes from a very active fundraising program. Like many small libraries and museums, we are majority supported by our patrons.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Aubrey? Councillor Aubrey, did you have a question?
No. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Thank you. Brain dead here. I was just wondering, and maybe somebody asked that and I wasn't paying enough attention. What was the contribution from Stonington this year?
The Stonington contribution has not been finalized for this year, but we are asking for level funding once again. And if that is achieved, then that was $111,500.
Thank you very much.
Just slightly under what Groton is doing to support the library.
Thank you.
That was going to be my question. If Stonington contributed this
Good luck with that.
It's a usual concern of ours.
Yeah. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will vote on 10849 in the amount of $115,000. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you, sir, for hanging out with us, and good luck.
My pleasure, and thank you all for your time and your work.
Thank you. We are on to 10849A, Bill Memorial Library. And this will be Councilor Melendez.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for Fall Center 10849A in the amount of $30,000.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Melendez and seconded by Parker, $30,000 for 10849A. Councilor Heed needs to speak, please.
Yes, I just need to provide a disclaimer or full disclosure or whatever. I sit on the board of the Bill Memorial Library.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Zuliani is here on behalf of the library. If anyone has questions for the group. Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I appreciate all the work you guys do over there, and it's a wonderful library. I see here that it's a $5,000 increase from last year. You guys typically, you know, the number seems much lower always than Mystic. And you guys seem to be able to, you know, do great work in funding and getting monies in. The 5,000 increase this year, what basically drove that?
Good morning and good afternoon. I'm the treasurer representing the board. We have two major areas of increases on the budget this year. And like everyone else, COVID has impacted us just like across the board and regarding all our operating expenses. Cleaning supplies and sterilization supplies are up. Labor up for cleaning and sanitization again. Plastic shielding, we've actually broke even with that this year. We've got grants that paid 100% of that, so we got a little help on the side. We've got no assistance in regards to COVID supplies from the town. Overall, COVID cost us about $9,000 in our budget, but we received $3,000 for plastic shields, so the impact is a net of $6,000 just on COVID alone. The other second item, which just as important, is our labor mandated minimum wage has gone up this year. It literally impacted 6 of our staff workers. Last year, we had the same increase, with no benefit, no increases in from the town. And we got a little assistance from PPP loan from Chelsea Bank, which helped us keep our staff at 100%. But this year, we don't qualify for the PPP loan. And so we're in trouble. Again, the impact on labor is we're up by $14,000. Between the COVID and labor, we're actually almost $18,000 to $20,000 more than last year. We are asking for more assistance from the town to help us go forward. We've been basically solving our old building syndrome, and we're seeking assistance from all programs and grants that are possible. We are just in need for a little assistance this year.
Great. My last question, thank you for answering that. I guess to John Burt, are we able to support with our stockpile of PPE or cleaning our stuff that may, turn to be expired? Can we support our libraries and helping them to help decrease and offset the costs, as we stated we could do with the ambulance, which is a private agency?
Yeah, sure. Any of the materials we're going to get from that grant are anybody, basically, any business, any nonprofit, even individuals.
So they could reach out and maybe help offset some of that cost. Okay. I think that would be great. And hopefully we can assist you with that in some way. But I can respectfully support this number of the 5,000 based on that, and hope that I'm all for the supporting minimum wage going up, which is long overdue. So naturally that's going to have an impact. But I hope that we can support you in making sure you can get some PPE gear through the town. Thank you.
We made that request to the town and we were told no.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should talk about that in another meeting then.
Not for the new funding. We have a new source of funding. That was probably a strategic national stockpile.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that we, I don't know. I don't know enough about that, but you're welcome to email me offline. Thank you.
Any assistance is appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Zuliani. Councilor Franco.
I just wanted to jump in on the same conversation about PPE, that if the library needs something, you should contact Mr. Burt, because they are going to be placing orders, and you can put in what your request is, because this is newer funding. Maybe when you had asked, there wasn't those type of funds available at that time, or it didn't apply. So definitely you should contact Mr. Burt on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see no other hands, so we will vote on 10849A, Bill Memorial Library, in the amount of $30,000. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously with 8 counselors. Thank you, Mr. Zuliani, for coming out today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and support.
All right, we are now on to Capital and Debt Service, and this is on page 204. And we'll be back to Councilor Baumgartner as soon as we get to the right page. Where did I put it? Sorry. Too many tabs. Okay. Councilor Baumgartner, 1076, please.
Make a motion to approve debt service 1076 for the amount of $9,523,450. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Melendez.
Moved by Baumgartner, seconded by Melendez. Manager.
This is simply our long-term debt for paying off bonds that we're required to pay. Of course, it's going up with our third issuance that we're in process of for the school Groton 2020.
Give me 1 second, please. Councilor Heed, Melendez, Bordelon.
Thank you very much. So, we talked about this actually the other night, but it goes from 2,430,720 this year. It starts declining, and then in 2029, I forget which bonds end up being paid off, but it drops in half that year. So that might be a good year to aim for bonding for roads. So if we can make a few years of paying for road maintenance out of our budget, just throwing it out there, that might be a way that you can fit it in and sort of smooth out the expenses.
Councilor Melendez.
Yes, thank you. I don't know where I'm seeing I remember for the entire debt, it was up by, I think, like 5.8 million. Here I'm only seeing about 1.4 million. But my question is to the entire debt. I know for the next 2 years, it's likely to go up even more. What are those amounts likely to increase over the next 2 years?
The final one, let's say between 1.5 and 1.6 million a year.
First of all, the larger 5.8 million or whatever it is, that's with the capital projects included. So that's the two line items mixed together. Somewhere between $1.5 million, 1.6 each of the 2 years for the last two issuances, it'll go up.
Okay, so for all 3 years combined, that should be about $9 million in debt increase, approximately.
And the 1.6.
It'll go up another 2 more years. It'll go up another 1.6 or so. 1.5.
That's combined. That's combined or per year?
2 years. 3 million or a little over.
Okay.
On top of what we're already paying towards the Groton 2020.
Okay. Thank you. I just need clarification.
Councilor Bordelon.
Yes, thank you. So in 2029, when we hit that, what at that point have we paid off in its entirety to get to that drop? What bonds are being paid off?
The schools both. Okay, there's a general obligation bond and a refunding bond dropping off for the schools.
Okay. And so that's accounts for the big drop on 2029.
Yes, correct. They'll be all paid off.
Okay. And
that'll be nice.
Will there be any more, I don't want to say refinancing necessarily. At one point we took some bonds and we the numbers and got a lower rate, correct?
Yeah, you're usually pretty far into it. I mean, like the ones we're issuing right now are a great rate. So our financial advisor regularly keeps an eye out for that and tells us whether it's time to look at that or not. They're always looking.
So there's a possibility that this could drop in a different year if we were able to reallocate again and refinance to an extent on these bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. We will vote on account 1076 in the amount of $9,523,450. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are on to contingency. This is account 1094 on page 210. And I believe we're on Councilor Parker.
Okay, there we go. Make a motion to move $350,000. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Franco for contingency. I think we're all familiar with contingency. Okay, seeing no questions, we will vote on $350,000 for account 1094. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. I will entertain a motion to recess until Monday, March 29th at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to recess by Parker, seconded by Franco. All those in favor of recessing until Monday, March 29th at 6 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are in recess at 12:41 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, town staff, for being here, GMTV, Director Landry, and Mr. Byrd as well.
Have a good afternoon, guys.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Okay, get outside.